I wish I'd never met you. My life would have been perfect. The credentials were delegated.
Then who was actually at the terminal?
Benjamin Green was 42, a senior financial crimes compliance manager at Lakefront National Bank in downtown Chicago, and the kind of man people forgot the moment he left a room. Everyone at the birthday table believed his glamorous wife, Natalie Green, had settled for a quiet man with no ambition. His aging silver Honda Accord sat outside the steakhouse. His worn stainless steel watch ticked softly beneath a navy suit that had seen better years, and tomorrow's homemade lunch already waited in his office refrigerator. What they didn't know was that Benjamin had spent the past 11 months building an encrypted archive capable of destroying several powerful lives. Then Natalie lifted her champagne glass, smiled at every guest, and said, "I wish I'd never met you. My life would have been perfect." Benjamin's fingers slowly tightened around the cold crystal until it almost cracked. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Leave a comment with your country and your local time. It's always fascinating to see how far these stories travel. And if you enjoy slow-burning stories where patience, truth, and justice matter more than anger, consider subscribing. Tomorrow's story might remind you that the quietest person in the room is often the one everyone should have been watching. Benjamin Green did not sleep that night, not because Natalie's words echoed inside his head. He had spent years training himself to separate emotion from action. The sentence hurt, but pain was temporary. Decisions lasted much longer. At 4:45 the following morning, his alarm sounded exactly as it did every weekday. He reached over, silenced it before the second vibration, and sat on the edge of the bed. The house felt strangely empty despite Natalie sleeping upstairs in the master bedroom. He had chosen the downstairs guest room sometime after midnight without saying a single word to anyone. Outside, Chicago was still wrapped in darkness. Lake Michigan carried a cool breeze across the city as Benjamin began his usual 5-mile run along the shoreline path. The same route, the same pace, the same quiet breathing. Other runners recognized him only as the man who never wore headphones. Benjamin believed silence made people notice details. The color of the sky before sunrise, the rhythm of footsteps, the conversations people assumed nobody else could hear. He had built his career the same way, not by speaking first, by observing longer. By 7 o'clock, he had already showered, ironed his navy shirt, packed another homemade turkey sandwich, sliced apples into a reusable container, and poured black coffee into an old stainless travel mug. Nothing about him suggested wealth. Nothing suggested influence. His silver Honda Accord had nearly 200,000 miles on the odometer. The driver's seat showed faint cracks in the leather. The radio occasionally lost signal beneath elevated train tracks. Benjamin never considered replacing it. "If it still does its job," he often told coworkers, "I don't need something newer." People smiled politely. Some secretly laughed. To many, Benjamin represented a man who never aimed higher. By 8:02 a.m., he entered Lakefront National Bank's headquarters, overlooking the Chicago River. Security officers greeted him before he reached the elevators. "Morning, Mr. Green." "Morning." The exchange never lasted longer than 3 seconds. Benjamin disliked unnecessary conversation before work. On the 23rd floor, Melissa Carter was already waiting outside conference room C. She was 51. The bank's senior compliance attorney, known throughout the financial industry for dismantling complex fraud cases with quiet precision. She noticed the faint redness beneath Benjamin's eyes. "Long night? A family dinner?" She nodded once. She had practiced law long enough to recognize answers that were intentionally short. "Done? I've scheduled the vendor review for 10. I'll be there." No further explanation was necessary. Inside his office, Benjamin removed a small leather notebook from his briefcase. Every morning began exactly the same. Date, weather, meetings, pending investigations, unresolved questions. Every observation was written by hand before entering the computer system. His assistants often joked that if the entire bank lost electricity, Benjamin could still rebuild every investigation from memory. It wasn't entirely a joke. Across the hall, Ethan Brooks balanced 2 coffees while studying a spreadsheet on his tablet. At 45, Ethan served as the bank's senior forensic accountant. Unlike Benjamin's quiet personality, Ethan enjoyed conversation. "You look terrible," Ethan said as Benjamin approached. "I've looked worse." Birthday celebration. Benjamin offered the smallest smile imaginable. "Something like that." Ethan waited. Nothing followed. After nearly 8 years working together, he understood one simple rule. Benjamin always spoke when facts were complete. Never before. The morning meeting began with 12 compliance officers reviewing suspicious commercial transactions involving several consulting firms across Illinois. Names filled the projector screen, vendor numbers, invoice totals, transfer histories. Most employees saw rows of numbers. Benjamin saw behavior. Patterns repeated themselves. Amounts just beneath reporting thresholds. Invoices approved minutes before banking deadlines. Companies sharing identical mailing addresses despite different ownership. He circled 3 payments without saying anything. Melissa noticed. "You found something." "Maybe." "What kind of maybe?" "The kind that needs another month." Several younger analysts exchanged confused glances. One whispered, "He always does this." Melissa heard him. "So do the people who never lose in federal court." The room became silent. Benjamin never rushed investigations. Twice during the previous decade, federal prosecutors had relied on his documentation during corporate fraud trials. Neither case had collapsed under cross-examination. His evidence spoke more clearly than witnesses ever could. That reputation mattered. Not because Benjamin wanted recognition. Because every accusation carried consequences. An innocent mistake looked remarkably similar to deliberate fraud until every document had been verified. By noon, Natalie had already posted photos from the previous night's birthday dinner. The captions described laughter, gratitude, another wonderful year. Every smiling face appeared perfect. Benjamin happened to see one image while scrolling through local business news. Natalie stood beside him in the photograph. Her smile reached the camera. His barely existed. More than 2,000 people liked the post before lunchtime. Comments flooded underneath. Perfect couple? Relationship goals. So beautiful. Benjamin is one lucky man. He closed the page without reading another word. At 1 o'clock, he met with Melissa privately. She closed the office door. "You've been distracted." "I've been careful." Those aren't always the same thing. Benjamin folded his hands across the conference table. "The investigation involving Stonebridge Strategic Advisors." Melissa looked up immediately. "What about it?" "I'd like additional access to archived payment records." "Reason." "I don't have enough evidence." "But you have suspicion." "I have irregularities." Melissa studied him for several seconds. She had known Benjamin long enough to recognize the difference. Suspicion came from instinct. Irregularities came from facts. She approved the request without another question. Late that afternoon, Benjamin returned to his office after everyone else had begun leaving. Floor 23 gradually emptied. Computer monitors darkened. Cleaning crews arrived. Chicago's skyline reflected orange and gold through the windows. Benjamin unlocked the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside sat an encrypted external drive labeled only with today's date. No company logo, no description, no obvious importance. He connected it to a secure workstation isolated from the bank's internal network. Folders appeared one after another. Corporate registrations, bank transfers, property records, consulting invoices, email preservation notices. Everything organized by date, everything cross-referenced, Everything verified twice. There was only one folder he had never opened. Its name contained 2 words: personal connection. His cursor rested above it for nearly 20 seconds. Then, he moved away. Professional evidence remained professional evidence. Until proof existed, personal assumptions had no place inside an investigation. He closed the drive, locked it away again. At 6:30, Benjamin finally left the office. The city had become quieter. Traffic crawled beneath elevated trains. He ignored 3 missed calls from Natalie. 1 voicemail, 4 text messages. None were opened. He stopped at a neighborhood grocery store instead. Bought fresh bread, turkey, coffee beans, laundry detergent. The cashier smiled. "Busy day." "A normal one," she laughed. "If that's normal, I'd hate to see busy." Benjamin smiled politely. Nobody noticed that his birthday had been yesterday. Nobody needed to. Back home, the lights inside the house were off, except for the upstairs bedroom. Natalie had arrived. Her luxury SUV sat inside the garage. Benjamin entered quietly. He placed groceries in the kitchen, prepared tomorrow's lunch, washed the dishes already sitting in the sink, then carried his laptop into the small downstairs study. The room contained only a desk, 2 filing cabinets, 1 bookshelf, and a framed photograph of his late father wearing a Chicago Police Department uniform. His father had often repeated the same lesson. "Anger wants today. Justice is willing to wait." Benjamin switched on the desk lamp. The soft yellow light filled the room. He logged into a secure investigative database. Hundreds of financial transactions filled the screen once again. Outside rain began tapping against the windows. The house remained completely silent. At exactly 11:58 p.m., a notification appeared in the corner of his encrypted email account. Unknown sender. No display name. No identifiable address. Only a single sentence occupied the message. "You're looking in the wrong direction." Benjamin read it twice. Then, for the first time since Natalie had shattered the silence at his birthday dinner, a faint crease appeared across his forehead. Someone knew about the investigation. Someone had been watching him, and someone believed the truth was even bigger than he imagined. Benjamin did not reply to the anonymous email. He never replied to anonymous messages. His father had once told him that every investigation attracted 2 kinds of strangers. One wanted to help. The other wanted to manipulate the investigation without leaving fingerprints. The difficult part was discovering which one had contacted first. At 6:15 the next morning, Benjamin sat alone inside his office with 2 computer monitors glowing in the darkness. The bank's regular employees would not arrive for another hour. He preferred it that way. Silence eliminated distractions. He reopened the encrypted message. "You're looking in the wrong direction. Nothing more. No attachment. No metadata that revealed an obvious source. The message had been routed through multiple encrypted servers. Professional, expensive, intentional. Someone knew enough about digital security to hide almost everything." Almost. Benjamin exported the message into a forensic analysis program. He wasn't searching for a name. He was searching for behavior. Every sender left behind habits, time zones, typing intervals, encryption preferences, routing choices. People lied. Patterns rarely did. A soft knock interrupted his concentration. Ethan Brooks entered carrying 2 cups of coffee. "I figured you were already here." Benjamin accepted one. "Thanks. You've been staring at that screen for 20 minutes. "I'm thinking." "Good thinking or dangerous thinking?" Benjamin looked at him. "That depends." Ethan leaned against the doorway. "You finally found something." "I found someone who wants me to find something." "Same thing." "No." Ethan nodded. He had learned long ago not to force Benjamin into conversations he wasn't ready to have. Instead, he placed a folder onto the desk. "The vendor reports you requested." Benjamin opened it. Inside were transaction summaries from 3 consulting firms: Stonebridge Strategic Advisors, Lake Horizon Marketing LLC, Midwest Growth Solutions. All 3 companies had appeared repeatedly during routine compliance reviews. Individually, nothing looked alarming. Together, they created a rhythm. Money entered, money moved, money disappeared. Every cycle lasted between 18 and 23 days. Benjamin highlighted several invoice numbers. They're spacing the transfers. Ethan studied the pages. To avoid automatic reporting thresholds. Partly. What else? They're also avoiding human attention. Ethan frowned. Benjamin pointed toward one page. If every payment were identical, software would catch it. He flipped another page. If every payment were random, accountants would notice. Another page. They're balancing between consistency and chaos. Ethan smiled slightly. I hate that your brain works like this. Benjamin quietly continued reading. The more records he examined, the less accidental everything appeared. Invoice amounts frequently ended in unusual numbers: $47, 82 cents, $113. Fraudsters often believed irregular numbers looked authentic. Experienced investigators knew better. Real businesses tended to repeat pricing patterns. Artificial numbers often tried too hard to appear random. Melissa Carter arrived shortly after 8. She carried a legal pad filled with handwritten notes. I've reviewed your request. Benjamin looked up. And the archived records are available. She placed another authorization form on his desk. But before you continue, she paused. I need to ask something. Benjamin waited. Is there any possibility this investigation intersects with your personal life? He remained silent for several seconds, not because he wanted to hide the truth, because the answer required precision. There is a possibility. Melissa watched him carefully. Has it already happened? I don't know. That's an unusual answer. It's the only accurate one. She appreciated accuracy more than comfort. If that changes, I'll disclose it immediately. I know you will. She signed the authorization. Then keep going. By mid-morning, Benjamin gained access to nearly 6 years of archived commercial payment records. Millions of transactions, thousands of companies, enough information to overwhelm almost anyone. Benjamin began narrowing instead of expanding. He ignored dramatic transactions, ignored unusually large transfers, ignored suspicious headlines. Instead, he focused on repetition. Repetition always revealed intention. 3 hours later, he noticed something. Every second Thursday, Stonebridge Strategic Advisors issued consulting payments to Lake Horizon Marketing. Within 48 hours, Lake Horizon transferred nearly identical amounts to Midwest Growth Solutions. Another 48 hours later, Midwest issued payments to dozens of smaller vendors. Those vendors barely existed. Some occupied abandoned office buildings, others shared virtual mailing addresses. Several had identical registered agents. Benjamin built a digital map. Blue lines connected companies. Green circles marked directors. Red arrows represented financial transfers. The screen slowly transformed into a web. Not random, engineered. Ethan walked past and stopped immediately. That's bigger than yesterday. Benjamin nodded. It keeps expanding. How many companies? So far. Benjamin zoomed outward. 23. Ethan whistled quietly. And that's only the first layer. Benjamin highlighted another sequence. What interests me more, he enlarged one payment, is where this one came from. Stonebridge Strategic Advisors. Payment amount, $286,000. Purpose, Executive Brand Development Services. Receiving company, Green and Stone Brand Consulting. Benjamin stopped moving the mouse. The office suddenly felt much quieter. Green and Stone. Natalie's company. He stared at the screen, not shocked, not angry, simply still. Ethan looked between Benjamin and the monitor. "You know them," Benjamin answered carefully. "My wife owns that company." Silence settled over the room. Ethan slowly lowered himself into a chair. "You've got to be kidding." "I wish I were." "Do you think—" Benjamin interrupted before the sentence finished. "I don't think." Ethan sighed. "Right. We don't think. We verify." Benjamin created a separate folder, Potential Personal Conflict. He copied exactly one document into it. Nothing else. Not because he wanted to ignore Natalie. Because professional ethics demanded extraordinary caution. If she were innocent, one careless assumption could destroy both the investigation and his marriage. If she were guilty, premature conclusions could destroy the prosecution. Evidence first. Always. At noon, Benjamin contacted Melissa. "I need to disclose something." She arrived within minutes. He turned the monitor toward her. "This company belongs to Natalie." Melissa read the screen without speaking. Finally, she asked, "When did you realize this?" 30 seconds ago." "And you're telling me immediately?" "Yes." She closed the file. "Good." Benjamin looked confused. "Good. You followed procedure." She remained calm. "That protects both you and the investigation. What happens now?" "You remain assigned unless evidence indicates personal bias." "And if it does, you'll be removed." Benjamin nodded. "I understand." Melissa looked directly at him. "I also know you." She paused. "If there's anyone in this building capable of separating facts from feelings, it's you." The afternoon became slower. Benjamin deliberately reduced his pace. Every document received additional verification. Every payment received another review. Every corporate registration was checked against state records. Nothing moved forward without confirmation. By evening, he had identified 13 invoices connected to Green and Stone brand consulting. Some appeared legitimate. Some looked questionable. One stood apart from the rest. Invoice 4,418. Executive Reputation Management, $398,000. The payment description looked ordinary. Too ordinary. Benjamin requested supporting documentation. Several minutes later, the contract appeared. The digital signatures looked authentic. Corporate letterhead matched. Formatting remained consistent. Everything appeared perfect. Almost. Benjamin zoomed into the bottom corner. A timestamp. Generated 11:42 p.m., approved 11:43 p.m., executed 11:44 p.m. 3 minutes. Large corporate consulting agreements rarely happened within 3 minutes. Never without negotiation. Never without revisions. Never without legal review. His heartbeat remained steady. His fingers did not shake. Instead, he opened another database. Electronic signature verification. The authentication certificate loaded. Owner: Natalie Green. Benjamin leaned back. The office around him disappeared into silence. Outside his window, the lights of downtown Chicago reflected across the river. Inside, only one thought occupied his mind. The signature was genuine. But a genuine signature did not automatically prove guilt. Someone could have manipulated the document. Someone could have used authorized credentials without permission. Someone could have designed the entire trail to point toward Natalie. Benjamin closed his eyes for exactly 5 seconds. Then he opened a new notebook. Across the top of the first page, he wrote only 7 words. "Do not investigate your wife. Investigate the evidence." He underlined the sentence once, closed the notebook, and began again from the very first transaction. Benjamin deliberately stayed away from Natalie for the next several days, not because he wanted to avoid her, because he wanted to avoid allowing emotion to influence evidence. They still lived under the same roof, but their routines rarely crossed. He left before sunrise. She usually returned long after sunset. When they did see each other, their conversations lasted less than a minute. "You're leaving already?" "I have an early meeting." "Working late again?" "Probably." Neither asked the questions that truly mattered. Neither mentioned the birthday dinner. Neither apologized. Silence had become another resident inside their home. On Thursday morning, Benjamin stood beside the floor-to-ceiling windows of Conference Room C, while Melissa Carter reviewed the latest findings. "The preservation orders have been approved." Benjamin nodded. "Good. No company connected to this investigation can legally destroy financial records now." She handed him a sealed envelope. "Federal authorization?" Benjamin read the first page. Every accounting database connected to the investigation had officially entered legal preservation status. Emails, cloud backups, internal messaging, electronic signatures, bank transfers, everything. For the first time since the anonymous email had arrived, Benjamin felt a small measure of relief. Evidence could no longer quietly disappear. Across town, Natalie knew nothing about the preservation orders. She was preparing for another client luncheon inside one of Chicago's most exclusive hotels. Green and Stone Brand Consulting occupied the entire top floor of a renovated historic building overlooking the magnificent Mile. Glass walls, Italian marble floors, modern artwork, fresh orchids in every reception area. Every detail reflected success. Natalie insisted appearances mattered because wealthy clients bought confidence before they bought strategy. Her employees admired her. Clients adored her. Industry magazines frequently interviewed her. She understood branding better than almost anyone. She always knew exactly what people wanted to see. That afternoon, she hosted an executive image seminar attended by nearly 50 business owners. Rachel Morgan arrived first. One of Chicago's top luxury real estate brokers, Rachel had been Natalie's closest friend for almost 8 years. Elegant, confident, always perfectly dressed. She embraced Natalie warmly. "I saw your birthday pictures." Natalie laughed. "They looked better online than they felt." Rachel smiled. "That's social media." Moments later, Amanda Collins entered carrying designer shopping bags. Amanda had built an enormous following as a luxury lifestyle influencer. Everything she posted seemed effortless. Private jets, resort vacations, fashion launches, exclusive restaurants. She immediately hugged Natalie. "You looked incredible Tuesday night." Natalie smiled. "Thank you." "Where's Benjamin today?" "Working." Amanda rolled her eyes playfully. "He works too much." Rachel laughed. "He always works." Natalie shrugged. "That's Benjamin." The conversation moved on. Nobody noticed the brief hesitation before Natalie answered. Nobody questioned why Benjamin rarely attended social events anymore. To them, he simply wasn't interested in glamorous lifestyles. Late that afternoon, Jason Whitmore arrived for a private meeting. Jason had represented numerous corporate executives throughout Chicago. Confident and articulate, he often advised Natalie on complex business contracts. He entered carrying several legal folders. "Your expansion agreement is ready." Natalie skimmed the documents. "Everything looks good," Jason smiled. As always, neither of them realized that Benjamin had already requested copies of several contracts signed by Jason's office as part of the broader financial review. Professional procedure, nothing personal. Yet. Back at Lakefront National Bank, Benjamin studied Green and Stone's financial history from an entirely different perspective. He ignored the company's marketing campaigns, ignored social media, ignored magazine interviews. Instead, he focused on one simple question. Did the reported income support the visible lifestyle he created? 2 columns. Verified income, observed spending. At first, the numbers appeared reasonable. Successful consulting firms often generated impressive revenue. But as additional records accumulated, small inconsistencies emerged. Luxury resort payments, private aviation deposits, jewelry purchases, vehicle leases, property renovations. None of those individually suggested wrongdoing. Combined, they exceeded the income Green and Stone officially reported. Benjamin leaned back in his chair. People often misunderstood financial investigations. Movies made fraud look dramatic. Hidden cash, suitcases, secret meetings. Reality looked different. Reality looked like mathematics. If a company earned $5 million, it could not consistently spend $8 million without explaining where the additional money originated. Money always entered from somewhere. His task was finding the missing source. Ethan walked into the office carrying another stack of reports. "You asked for vendor ownership records." Benjamin accepted them. "Thanks." Ethan noticed the spreadsheets covering Benjamin's desk. "You comparing income against expenditures?" Benjamin nodded. "The numbers don't agree." "By much?" "Too early." Ethan studied several highlighted entries. "You still think Green and Stone could be innocent?" Benjamin answered without hesitation. "Yes." "You really believe that?" "I believe evidence," Ethan smiled. "I keep forgetting." "No." Benjamin looked toward the window. "Most people never remember." The following morning, another development quietly changed the investigation. A federal forensic accounting team agreed to assist. The request had originated through standard regulatory cooperation. No headlines, no public announcement. Simply another layer of specialists reviewing the evidence. Benjamin attended the introductory meeting through secure video conference. One investigator introduced herself. "My name is Laura Mitchell, Senior Financial Investigator, Department of Justice." She spoke calmly. "Our objective is independent verification." Benjamin appreciated those words. Independent. Verification. Exactly what every investigation required. Laura reviewed the existing timeline. Anonymous email. Shell companies, circular transfers, questionable consulting invoices, possible electronic signature concerns. Then she stopped. "You have a personal connection." Benjamin nodded once. "My wife owns one of the companies." "Have you disclosed it?" "Immediately." "Good." She continued reviewing documents. No judgment, no suspicion, only procedure. Professionalism reassured Benjamin more than sympathy ever could. After the meeting, Melissa joined him inside his office. "You handled that well." "I answered their questions." "You also didn't defend Natalie." Benjamin looked surprised. "I don't know whether she needs defending." Melissa smiled slightly. "Exactly." Late that evening, Benjamin finally returned home before Natalie. The house felt unusually quiet. He made dinner for himself. Grilled chicken, rice, steamed vegetables. Simple. Predictable. While washing dishes, he noticed several luxury shopping bags resting beside the kitchen island. Designer labels, expensive boutiques. He glanced at the receipts lying partially exposed. Nearly $12,000. Purchased that afternoon. Benjamin folded the receipt exactly as he had found it. He neither photographed it nor wrote anything down. Household purchases were not evidence. Professional discipline required boundaries. Half an hour later, Natalie walked through the front door carrying another garment bag. She seemed surprised to find him home. "I didn't expect you. I finished early." She removed her heels. "Long day." Benjamin nodded politely. "I made dinner." "I'm not hungry." She hesitated before speaking again. "Benjamin," he looked toward her, "I'm sorry about my birthday." For several seconds, neither moved. Then Benjamin answered quietly. "I heard what you said. I didn't mean it like that." "What did you mean?" Natalie opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know." Benjamin simply nodded. "Boom. I hope you figure it out." He carried his empty plate into the sink and walked upstairs. No argument, no accusations, no dramatic confrontation. Natalie remained standing alone in the kitchen. For the first time in years, she looked uncertain. Meanwhile, inside a secure federal evidence database, another notification appeared. Financial record preservation confirmed. Every banking record, every archived email, every electronic contract, every accounting backup, locked by court authorization. No one connected to Green, and Stone knew it had happened. But from that moment forward, every future decision would leave a permanent trail. And Benjamin understood something that nobody else in the investigation yet realized. People could still lie. They could still coordinate stories. They could still deny everything. But they could no longer erase the past. The investigation entered its 12th month on a rainy Monday morning. Benjamin Green had learned that time changed people in predictable ways. The guilty became impatient. The innocent became cooperative. Those trapped somewhere in the middle often made the mistakes that exposed everyone else. He sat quietly in his office while a fresh stack of corporate filings waited on his desk. Nothing about the documents looked extraordinary. In fact, they looked almost boring. Articles of incorporation, annual reports, director appointments, commercial lease agreements. To most people, they represented paperwork. To Benjamin, they represented decisions. Every signature carried intention. Every amendment told a story. Every delayed filing raised another question. Melissa Carter stepped inside, carrying a sealed evidence envelope. The federal team sent over another batch. Benjamin accepted it. What is it? Corporate ownership disclosures. He opened the envelope carefully. Several companies previously believed to be unrelated had updated ownership records after routine compliance requests. That alone wasn't suspicious. Businesses changed ownership every day. The timing, however, deserved attention. Nearly every ownership transfer had occurred within the previous 8 months. Too recent, too coordinated, too convenient. Benjamin arranged the documents side by side. Stonebridge Strategic Advisors, Lake Horizon Marketing, Midwest Growth Solutions. 3 separate companies, 3 different executive teams, 3 different mailing addresses. Yet one legal representative appeared repeatedly. A Chicago attorney named Daniel Foster. Benjamin searched the firm's public records. Daniel Foster had organized more than 100 corporate entities during the last 5 years. Again, not unusual. Corporate attorneys created businesses every day. But another detail emerged. Several of Foster's clients also shared financial relationships with Green and Stone Brand Consulting. Benjamin highlighted the overlap. Ethan Brooks entered just as Benjamin finished drawing another connection across the evidence board. "You've barely moved since breakfast." Benjamin looked up. "I don't think we're dealing with one fraudulent company." Ethan crossed his arms. "How many?" "I don't know yet." "But they're connected." Benjamin nodded. "They behave like independent businesses." "But they're making decisions like one organization." Ethan studied the chart. "One brain." "Exactly." The room became quiet. Benjamin enlarged another ownership report. A name appeared that neither of them had seen before. Ryan Calloway, founder and chief executive officer of Calloway Venture Capital, age 45, graduate of Northwestern University, featured regularly in business magazines, board member of several nonprofit organizations, estimated personal net worth exceeding $90 million. Ethan recognized the name immediately. "I've seen him on television." Benjamin continued reading. Calloway Venture Capital had invested in dozens of growing companies across the Midwest: technology, healthcare, luxury branding, hospitality. One investment stood out: Green and Stone Brand Consulting. Benjamin stopped scrolling. Investment announced 18 months earlier. Official value undisclosed. Public statements described Ryan as merely a strategic investor. Benjamin searched additional filings: private board meeting minutes, capital injections, consulting agreements, executive advisory contracts, Ryan's involvement appeared far greater than public announcements suggested. Still, none of it proved wrongdoing. It simply expanded the map. Later that afternoon, Benjamin attended a secure video conference with Laura Mitchell from the Department of Justice. She reviewed the latest evidence. Interesting. Benjamin waited. We've independently identified Callaway Venture Capital. You have? Laura nodded. They've appeared in 2 unrelated financial reviews. Same pattern. Similar. She zoomed into several transaction timelines. Money moved between investment funds, consulting firms, marketing agencies, private holding companies. Everything remained technically legal on paper, yet profits repeatedly disappeared before taxes reflected them. Laura looked directly into the camera. Someone understands compliance extremely well. Benjamin quietly answered, which usually means someone hired professionals. Laura nodded. Exactly. Professional criminals rarely looked like criminals. They looked like successful executives, expensive suits, luxury offices, charitable donations, magazine interviews. Benjamin had seen the pattern before. Reputation often became the strongest shield. That evening, he drove toward downtown instead of going home. Not to follow Natalie, not to spy. He simply attended a public charity gala where Ryan Callaway had been scheduled as a keynote donor. Admission was open to corporate sponsors and financial institutions. Lakefront National Bank maintained a table every year. Benjamin blended easily into the crowd. No tuxedo, no expensive watch. Just another quiet banker speaking with compliance professionals. Across the ballroom, Ryan Callaway stood beneath bright chandeliers surrounded by executives and reporters. He looked exactly as newspapers described him. Tall, confident, perfect posture. Silver threaded through neatly styled dark hair. Every handshake looked practiced, every smile carefully measured. Benjamin watched without approaching, observation first, conversation later. 20 minutes passed before another familiar figure entered the ballroom. Natalie. She wore an elegant black evening gown that immediately attracted cameras. Ryan noticed her almost instantly. Their greeting lasted less than 5 seconds, entirely professional. A polite handshake, comfortable smiles, nothing inappropriate. Anyone watching casually would see nothing unusual. Benjamin almost looked away. Then he noticed something. Their eyes, not their smiles. Their eyes lingered for a fraction of a second longer than expected. Recognition, comfort, history, small details, the kind most people ignored. Benjamin quietly noted the time. 7:42 p.m. No accusation, only observation. Throughout the evening, Ryan and Natalie rarely stood together. Instead, they circulated separately. Occasionally, their paths crossed. Brief conversations, perfect public distance. Professional appearances remained intact. Benjamin left before dessert. There was still no evidence of an affair, only instinct. Instinct never entered official reports. The following morning, another development arrived unexpectedly. Federal digital forensic specialists completed recovery of archived communication backups from one consulting firm's cloud servers. Melissa entered Benjamin's office carrying a secure tablet. They found deleted correspondence. Benjamin accepted the device. Recoverable. Almost everything. He began reading. Thousands of emails, scheduling messages, financial discussions, travel arrangements, nothing extraordinary. Then encrypted conversations appeared. Unlike ordinary email, these messages had originally existed inside a secure executive messaging platform. Most content remained unavailable. Only fragments survived. Meeting confirmed. Transfer completed. Same arrangement. Delete after review. Benjamin frowned. Professional executives often used encrypted communication. That alone proved nothing. But another detail stood out. Several messages referenced initials instead of names. RC. NG. Benjamin froze. Ryan Callaway. Natalie Green, possibly. Or entirely different people. Again, assumption had no place here. Benjamin created another evidence folder. Unconfirmed initial references. Nothing entered the primary case file. Not yet. Later that afternoon, Ethan walked in carrying financial travel records. You asked for executive expense reimbursements. Benjamin reviewed the documents. Ryan and Natalie had attended several conferences during the previous 2 years. New York, Miami, Las Vegas, San Francisco. On paper, they attended different events, different hotels, different schedules. Benjamin almost closed the folder. Then one reimbursement caught his attention. Chicago. 9 months earlier. Ryan claimed accommodation at the Grand Harrison Hotel. Natalie's company also billed client expenses there. Same date, same hotel, different invoices. Benjamin requested hotel conference reservations. Hours later, the records arrived. Ryan reserved Suite 1812. Natalie's company reserved Conference Room 12. Entirely possible. Perfectly ordinary. Until Benjamin noticed the security access logs. Suite 1812, Conference Room 12, Private Executive Lounge. All accessed using temporary VIP credentials issued by the same event coordinator. Again, still not enough. But the coincidences continued multiplying. Benjamin leaned back. He remembered something his father had once told him after 28 years in law enforcement. One coincidence means nothing. 2 deserve attention. 3 require investigation. Benjamin counted silently. The investment, the financial overlap, the encrypted initials, the matching conference, the shared credentials. He wasn't counting coincidences anymore. He was counting patterns. Just before 6 o'clock, another secure message arrived from Laura Mitchell. Subject additional cooperation approved. Inside was a single sentence. A federal judge had authorized expanded digital forensic recovery covering every preserved corporate communication connected to the investigation. Benjamin closed the message slowly. The investigation had crossed another invisible line. No one outside the investigative team knew it yet. Ryan continued appearing on magazine covers. Natalie continued posting photographs of successful clients. Chicago continued admiring 2 respected business leaders, but somewhere inside government servers, thousands of deleted files were quietly being reconstructed one fragment at a time. And Benjamin knew something from years of investigating financial crime. People were remarkably good at deleting emails. They were far less successful at deleting history. Benjamin arrived at Lakefront National Bank before dawn once again. The city skyline was still wrapped in blue-gray shadows when he unlocked his office. He switched on only the desk lamp. Darkness helped him concentrate. His phone remained face down. His email stayed closed. For the first hour of every morning, he allowed nothing to interrupt his thinking. The Federal Forensic Recovery had produced more than 60,000 digital records overnight. Most investigators would begin by searching names. Benjamin searched time. Time never lied. He sorted every recovered communication into a single timeline: emails, calendar invitations, electronic signatures, video conference logs, cloud backups, travel reservations. Each event occupied one place, 1 minute, one decision. Patterns emerged naturally. He noticed that Green and Stonebrand Consulting experienced unusual bursts of activity every 6 to 8 weeks. Not marketing campaigns, not client launches, administrative activity. Passwords changed, archive folders moved, shared drives reorganized. Outside consultants received temporary access. Within 48 hours, large consulting invoices were issued somewhere else inside the network of companies. Benjamin highlighted every occurrence: 12 identical cycles, 11 months, almost perfectly scheduled. He whispered to himself. They built a routine. Ethan Brooks entered carrying breakfast sandwiches. I guessed you skipped breakfast again? Benjamin accepted one without looking away from the monitor. Thank you. Ethan studied the enormous digital timeline stretching across both screens. You've been busy. No, Benjamin replied quietly. They've been busy. Ethan leaned closer. What are you seeing? Benjamin enlarged one section. Every transfer is preceded by digital housekeeping. Cleaning the records? No. Benjamin shook his head. Preparing them. He pointed toward several administrator logins. They don't erase evidence afterward. They reorganize everything before the money moves. Ethan frowned. Why would that matter? Benjamin zoomed farther in. Because preparation creates witnesses, he explained calmly. Every password reset, every permission request, every server login, every cloud synchronization generated independent records. Someone could delete emails, someone could destroy spreadsheets, but dozens of invisible systems still remembered when users entered, copied, uploaded, downloaded, or modified information. Benjamin smiled faintly. Computers forget files. They rarely forget behavior. Later that morning, Melissa Carter joined them. The federal team recovered something interesting. Benjamin looked up. What? Meeting room reservations. He accepted another encrypted drive. Melissa continued. Not business meetings. Private executive reservations. Benjamin connected the drive. Luxury hotels. Private conference suites. Executive lounges. Airport business centers. Nothing illegal. Nothing secret. Except the frequency. Ryan Calloway. Natalie Green. Jason Whitmore. The same names repeatedly appeared at separate events. Rarely together on paper. Often within the same buildings. Sometimes only minutes apart. Melissa crossed her arms. Still circumstantial. Benjamin nodded. Yes? But becoming difficult to ignore. Melissa agreed. Exactly. She never wanted assumptions. She wanted accumulation. Evidence became powerful through consistency. At noon, Benjamin received an unexpected calendar invitation. Mandatory Executive Compliance Review, hosted by the bank's Board Risk Committee. Conference Room 1. He attended promptly. Several senior executives waited inside. Routine quarterly review. Nothing unusual. Benjamin presented ongoing financial crime investigations without mentioning confidential names, fraud prevention metrics, regulatory updates, emerging risks. The presentation lasted 45 minutes. As the meeting ended, one board member stopped him. Benjamin. Yes. I've noticed you've been working unusually long hours. I have. Anything we should know? Benjamin answered carefully. Only that some investigations require patience. The chairman smiled. That's why you're leading them. Benjamin thanked him and returned downstairs. No one asked for details. No one pressured him. Trust had become another valuable asset. That afternoon, Laura Mitchell called directly. I think we've found your anonymous sender. Benjamin remained silent. Not the person. The location. She shared her screen. The original encrypted email had passed through several international servers before briefly connecting to a wireless network in downtown Chicago. Duration: 14 seconds. Enough to transmit. Not enough to identify the device. The signal originated near Grant Park. Benjamin studied the map. Public Wi-Fi. Yes. So they wanted us to find the city? Laura nodded. Probably. They could have hidden that, too. Benjamin understood immediately. Someone wanted investigators looking in Chicago, not overseas, not elsewhere. Closer. Much closer. Any surveillance cameras? Laura sighed. The footage was overwritten weeks ago. Benjamin expected that answer. Large cities erased video constantly. Time destroyed evidence almost as effectively as criminals. After ending the call, Benjamin stared through the office window. Someone inside Chicago knew everything. Someone had risked contacting investigators. Someone had intentionally remained hidden. The question was no longer why. The question had become whether they feared the organization or belonged to it. That evening, Benjamin left work slightly earlier than usual. For the first time in weeks, he found Natalie already home. She sat alone on the back patio watching rain fall across the garden. A glass of wine rested beside her untouched. Benjamin quietly stepped outside. "Mind if I sit?" She looked surprised. "No." Several minutes passed. Neither spoke. Rain filled the silence. Finally, Natalie broke it. "Do you ever miss who we used to be?" Benjamin considered the question. "I remember who we were." "That's not what I asked." He looked toward the darkening sky. "Memory and missing aren't always the same thing." Natalie lowered her eyes. "I know I've changed." Benjamin remained quiet. "So have you." "I suppose." She hesitated. "Do you still trust me?" The question lingered between them. Benjamin answered honestly. "I don't know." Natalie's expression faltered. "I appreciate the honesty." "It wasn't meant to hurt you." "I know." She looked away. "I've been asking myself the same question." Benjamin studied her face. For the first time in months, she looked tired. Not physically, emotionally. There were faint shadows beneath her eyes. Her confident smile was gone. She seemed weighed down by something she could not say. Benjamin almost asked. Almost. Instead, he stood. "I have work to finish." She nodded slowly. "I figured." As he walked back inside, Natalie quietly whispered something he barely heard. "I wish things were simpler." Benjamin paused for only a second, then continued upstairs. Inside his study, he opened the encrypted investigation database once more. A new upload had arrived from Federal Digital Forensics, Recovered Calendar Archive. He opened the file. Thousands of appointments appeared. Most meant nothing. Lunches, meetings, flights, client calls. Then one recurring event caught his attention. Every second month. No subject, no location. Only 2 attendees. RC, NG, duration. Exactly 30 minutes. No notes, no attachments. Automatically deleted after each occurrence. Benjamin stared at the screen. Still not proof, still only initials, still only patterns. But another realization slowly formed. Whatever relationship existed between those initials had been carefully hidden for years. Professional criminals often concealed money. Professionals with experience concealed communication. He exported the calendar records into the growing timeline. The software immediately aligned them beside the financial transfers. His eyes narrowed. Every mysterious 30-minute meeting occurred less than 24 hours before one of the major consulting payments moved through the corporate network. Once, twice, 6 times, 9 times, 12. Perfect alignment. Benjamin slowly removed his glasses. He rubbed his eyes. Not because he felt defeated, because the evidence had just become far more organized than coincidence could explain. Across town, inside a luxury downtown office, Ryan Calloway stood alone after every employee had gone home. He opened a locked cabinet hidden behind framed artwork. Inside rested a small fireproof safe. He entered a 6-digit code, removed a single encrypted flash drive, connected it to his laptop. A message appeared on the screen. Synchronization failed. Archived server unavailable. Ryan frowned. He tried again. The same message appeared. He didn't know it. He couldn't know it. 3 days earlier, federal preservation orders had quietly frozen every server he believed he still controlled. For the first time in years, something had happened outside his carefully constructed plan. And somewhere across Chicago, Benjamin Green continued patiently assembling the truth, one verified fact at a time. By the beginning of October, Benjamin's investigation had grown beyond anything he had imagined 11 months earlier. What had started as a routine compliance review involving several questionable invoices now stretched across investment firms, consulting companies, shell corporations, digital communication networks, and executive travel records. Every week added another layer. Every verified document answered one question while creating 3 more. Benjamin refused to become overwhelmed. He broke every problem into smaller pieces. 1 payment, 1 signature, 1 meeting, 1 fact. His desk reflected that philosophy. Instead of towering stacks of paper, neat folders lined the surface in chronological order. Each folder represented a single week. Each page had been verified. Nothing speculative remained inside. At exactly 7:15 on Tuesday morning, Melissa Carter entered carrying an unusual expression. She closed the office door before speaking. "We received a voluntary disclosure." Benjamin immediately looked up. "From who?" "They won't tell us yet." Melissa handed him a sealed federal envelope. "The information came through protected legal counsel." Benjamin carefully opened it. Inside sat only 3 printed pages. No names, no signatures, no identifying information. The first page contained a typed statement. "I participated in meetings involving executives from several companies currently under review. I believe financial records were intentionally structured to avoid regulatory attention. I am willing to cooperate if my identity remains protected until formal immunity discussions begin." Benjamin read every line twice. The statement revealed almost nothing. Yet it changed everything. Someone from inside wanted out. Someone had decided silence had become more dangerous than cooperation. Melissa studied Benjamin's face. "What do you think?" "I think someone is scared." "Of investigators?" Benjamin slowly shook his head. "No. Of someone else." Later that morning, Laura Mitchell joined a secure conference call. "We've interviewed the attorney representing the confidential witness." Benjamin listened carefully. "The witness refuses to meet until additional protections are approved," Laura continued. "But they did provide one useful detail." She displayed a calendar. "The meetings you've been tracking," Benjamin leaned forward, "weren't always attended by the same people." Another chart appeared. Ryan Calloway attended regularly. Jason Whitmore appeared occasionally. Several unfamiliar executives rotated in and out. One name appeared far more often than expected. Rebecca Lawson. Benjamin recognized it immediately. Rebecca served as Chief Financial Officer of Stonebridge Strategic Advisors. Quiet, highly respected, almost invisible in public. Unlike Ryan, she rarely gave interviews. Unlike Natalie, she avoided social media completely. Unlike Jason, she never appeared in business magazines. She remained behind the scenes. Benjamin opened another database. Rebecca Lawson, certified public accountant, former audit partner, national reputation for technical excellence, no disciplinary history, no public controversies. Her professional record looked almost flawless. Melissa quietly observed. "Sometimes the quiet ones know the most." Benjamin nodded. "Sometimes they're the ones keeping everything together." Throughout the afternoon, Benjamin focused entirely on Rebecca. Not because she appeared guilty, because she appeared essential. Every large organization depended upon someone who understood every financial detail. If Rebecca truly managed Stonebridge's accounting systems, she probably understood how money traveled through the network better than anyone else. At 4 o'clock, another notification arrived. Federal forensic accountants had completed analysis of the circular payment structure. Benjamin opened the report. 43 pages. Charts. Timelines. Statistical analysis. Cash flow modeling. The conclusion occupied only 2 sentences. The observed transaction pattern is economically irrational for legitimate consulting operations. The structure primarily benefits concealment rather than commercial efficiency. Benjamin reread those sentences several times. Federal investigators had reached the same conclusion independently. The structure itself served no honest business purpose. That mattered. Objective agreement strengthened every future decision. As evening approached, Ethan entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. I heard about the witness. Benjamin accepted the coffee. So did everyone. Only rumors. Benjamin smiled faintly. Rumors travel faster than evidence. They always do. Ethan hesitated. Do you think they'll actually testify? Benjamin considered the question. I think they want to. But they're afraid. Ethan nodded slowly. I would be too. Meanwhile, across town, Natalie sat inside her office long after every employee had gone home. The city lights reflected across the windows. Her desk remained unusually disorganized. Client proposals, marketing plans, financial reports. Normally, everything stayed perfectly arranged. Tonight, nothing seemed orderly. Her phone vibrated. Ryan Calloway. She stared at the screen. The call continued ringing. She finally answered. Hello? Ryan's voice remained calm. We need to talk. I'm busy. This can't wait. Natalie closed her eyes. I said I'm busy. You've been avoiding everyone. I've been working. No. Ryan's voice hardened slightly. You've been disappearing. Several seconds passed. Finally, Natalie spoke quietly. I'm tired. We're all tired. You don't understand. I understand more than you think. She looked toward the dark office hallway. No, you don't. Ryan lowered his voice. Meet me tomorrow. I can't. You have to. Natalie ended the call without another word. She placed the phone face down on her desk. Her hands trembled slightly. For the first time in years, she looked genuinely frightened. The following morning, Benjamin reviewed additional communication logs. Most encrypted messages remained unreadable. Encryption had protected their contents, but metadata survived. Dates, times, recipients, duration. One conversation caught his attention. Ryan Calloway. Rebecca Lawson. Length, 48 minutes. Occurred only 3 hours after one of the largest consulting payments in the investigation. Benjamin noted it. Another pattern, another connection, still no assumptions. Near lunchtime, Laura Mitchell called again. We've confirmed something. Benjamin waited. The confidential witness never worked for Green and Stone. His attention sharpened. They worked somewhere else. Stonebridge. We can't say. But yes, Benjamin looked out the window. So the first crack appeared inside Ryan's organization. Exactly, Laura continued, and people rarely become whistleblowers unless they believe the organization is beginning to fail. Benjamin understood immediately. Fear created cooperation. Confidence created silence. Someone inside no longer believed the system could protect them. Late that afternoon, Benjamin finally left the office before sunset. On his way home, he stopped at a neighborhood grocery store. The elderly cashier recognized him. You're here earlier today. Benjamin smiled politely. For once. Your wife isn't with you? No. Tell her we missed seeing both of you together. I will. He paid for his groceries and walked outside. The casual conversation stayed with him. Months earlier, people had always spoken of Benjamin and Natalie together. Now everyone asked about one without the other. Distance had quietly become visible. Back at home, he found the house empty. A single envelope rested on the kitchen counter. His name appeared on the front. Benjamin. Nothing else. He opened it carefully. Inside lay a handwritten note. I'm sorry for everything I said that night. I know those words cannot be taken back. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope someday you'll understand why I became someone neither of us recognizes anymore. Natalie. Benjamin read the letter twice, then folded it carefully. He neither smiled nor frowned. The apology felt sincere, but sincerity and truth were not always the same. He placed the letter inside a drawer rather than throwing it away. Some things deserved preserving, even painful ones. Just before midnight, his encrypted government phone vibrated once. Laura Mitchell had sent a single sentence. "Emergency meeting tomorrow morning. The witness has agreed to speak." Benjamin slowly looked at the message. Nearly 12 months of patient investigation had finally produced someone willing to talk. He switched off the lamp. Outside, the city slept peacefully. Inside federal offices across Chicago, attorneys prepared immunity agreements, investigators organized evidence files, and interview rooms were quietly reserved. Somewhere, an anonymous witness had decided that carrying the truth alone had become impossible. Benjamin didn't know who would walk through that interview room door the next morning, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. When people inside a carefully constructed deception began speaking, the strongest walls often collapsed from within. Benjamin arrived at the federal field office at 6:40 the next morning. The interview had been scheduled for 8 o'clock. He always preferred arriving early. Preparation created clarity. The conference room assigned to the meeting contained only a long wooden table, 4 chairs, a wall-mounted monitor, and a digital recording system waiting silently in the corner. Laura Mitchell was already there. She looked as composed as ever. On the table rested 3 folders, one marked Investigation Timeline, one marked Financial Evidence. The third remained sealed. Laura noticed Benjamin looking at it. "That's for the witness." Benjamin nodded. "No names." "Not until they sign." Melissa Carter arrived a few minutes later carrying a legal notebook. "Everyone ready?" "As ready as we'll ever be," Laura answered. No one spoke again. At exactly 7:58, an attorney entered first. A middle-aged woman dressed in a charcoal suit. She carried a leather briefcase and introduced herself. "My client will cooperate under the conditions previously discussed." Laura nodded. "The agreement has been approved." The attorney stepped aside. A woman entered slowly behind her. Benjamin recognized her immediately. Rebecca Lawson. She looked different from the confident executive shown in corporate photographs. There was no carefully styled appearance, no expensive jewelry, no polished smile. She looked exhausted, as though she had not slept in days. Rebecca sat down without looking directly at anyone. Laura switched on the recorder. "This interview begins at 8:01 a.m. She stated everyone's names for the official record. When she reached Rebecca, the woman finally spoke. "My name is Rebecca Lawson." Her voice remained steady. "I am the Chief Financial Officer of Stonebridge Strategic Advisors." Laura continued. "You are participating voluntarily." "Yes." "You understand that knowingly providing false information may affect your cooperation agreement." "I understand." Laura leaned forward. "Why are you here today?" Rebecca remained silent for several seconds. When she finally answered, her words surprised everyone. "Because someone is going to die if this continues." The room became completely still. Benjamin did not interrupt. Laura calmly asked, "What makes you believe that?" Rebecca folded her hands tightly together. "Fear." "Whose fear?" "Our fear." She looked toward the table instead of at the investigators. "For years, everyone believed we were protecting successful businesses." Her voice became quieter. Then people started asking questions. Laura allowed the silence to continue. Rebecca eventually spoke again. Questions turned into investigations. Investigations turned into panic. And panic changes people. Benjamin finally asked his first question. "What is everyone afraid of?" Rebecca slowly lifted her eyes. "Ryan." The room remained silent, not because the name surprised anyone, because of the certainty with which she spoke it. Laura continued carefully. "Explain." Rebecca took a slow breath. "Ryan Calloway built the network. Not every company. Not every transaction. But the structure, She described years of expansion. Investment companies purchased minority ownership in legitimate businesses. Consulting contracts followed. Marketing agreements, strategic advisory fees, licensing arrangements. Everything appeared legal individually. Collectively, the structure allowed enormous amounts of money to move between organizations while becoming increasingly difficult to trace. Benjamin listened without writing. He preferred hearing the complete story first. Rebecca continued. Most executives believed everything was legitimate. When did that change? About a year ago. Benjamin immediately recognized the timing. 11 months, exactly when his investigation had quietly begun. What happened? Rebecca closed her eyes briefly. Ryan changed. In what way? He stopped trusting anyone. She explained that routine financial reviews suddenly became secret meetings. Longtime employees lost system access. Departments stopped sharing information. Independent auditors were quietly replaced. Electronic records disappeared without explanation. Executives began communicating through encrypted applications rather than company email. Laura asked, "Did anyone object?" Rebecca laughed bitterly. "People with mortgages don't usually challenge millionaires." Benjamin finally opened his notebook. "When did you first suspect criminal activity?" Rebecca answered immediately. "The day I was instructed to approve an invoice that never should have existed." Benjamin looked toward Melissa. They both knew which invoice she meant. Executive Reputation Management. Rebecca nodded. Invoice 4418. Benjamin felt every piece of evidence shifting into place. "You recognize the number." "I created it." No one spoke. Rebecca continued before anyone could ask another question. "I created the invoice. I generated the accounting entry. I processed the payment. But I didn't create the transaction." Benjamin carefully chose his next words. "Explain." Rebecca reached into her attorney's briefcase. She removed a flash drive. "This contains internal accounting revisions." Laura accepted it without connecting the device. Rebecca continued. "The original invoice wasn't for Green and Stone." Benjamin's attention sharpened instantly. "It was issued to another company." "What changed?" "Ryan ordered us to replace the recipient." "When?" "The following morning." Benjamin frowned. "Why?" "I wasn't told." Laura asked, "Who performed the modification?" Rebecca answered without hesitation. "I did." "Under whose instruction? Ryan Calloway." The room remained silent again. Benjamin finally asked the question occupying everyone's thoughts. "What about Natalie Green?" Rebecca hesitated for the first time. "I don't know." Benjamin remained expressionless. "What do you mean you don't know?" "I don't know what she believed." Rebecca looked directly at him. "I met her several times." She attended executive meetings. She discussed branding strategies, investment presentations, corporate expansion. I never heard her discuss fraudulent accounting. Benjamin wrote exactly one sentence: knowledge undetermined, nothing more. Laura nodded approvingly. Evidence, not emotion. Rebecca continued describing the financial system. Every questionable payment required 3 approvals: operational approval, financial approval, executive authorization. Ryan always controlled the final authorization, always. Benjamin asked, "Could anyone move large amounts of money without Ryan knowing?" Rebecca answered immediately. "No. What about using his authorization?" "It required biometric verification." Benjamin looked toward Laura. Biometric approval changed everything. If verified, executive responsibility became much harder to deny. The interview continued for nearly 4 hours. Rebecca answered every question patiently. She admitted mistakes, accepted responsibility for accounting decisions, explained document revisions, identified hidden databases, named encrypted backup servers, provided passwords investigators never expected to receive, By early afternoon, the evidence team had already confirmed several of her statements. She had told the truth, at least about everything verified so far. As the interview ended, Benjamin gathered his notebook. Rebecca quietly stopped him. "Mr. Green." He turned. "I owe you an apology." Benjamin looked surprised. "For what?" "I assumed you were just another compliance manager." She smiled sadly. "I didn't realize you were the only person patient enough to find us." Benjamin answered honestly. "I wasn't looking for you. I was looking for the truth." Rebecca nodded. "I know." She hesitated. "There's something else." Benjamin waited. She lowered her voice. "If Ryan discovers I spoke today..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Benjamin understood. Laura immediately instructed federal security personnel to begin protective procedures. Rebecca would not be returning home. She would enter temporary protective housing until prosecutors determined the next steps. As Benjamin walked toward the parking garage, Laura joined him. "How are you holding up?" He considered the question. "We have answers." "Some. But not the ones closest to you." Benjamin looked toward the cloudy Chicago sky. "No. Not yet." Laura spoke quietly. "Rebecca may be telling the truth about Natalie." "She may?" "You don't sound convinced." Benjamin unlocked his car. "I'm convinced of one thing." Laura waited. "I still don't know whether my wife is a participant," he paused, "or another person being used." He closed the driver's door gently. Across the city, inside a glass-walled executive office, Ryan Calloway stood alone, reading a short encrypted message that had arrived only moments earlier. One sentence. Rebecca never came home. Ryan stared at the screen for a long time. Then, for the first time in years, the calm smile that had impressed investors, reporters, and business leaders slowly disappeared. He understood exactly what that message meant. Someone had finally chosen the truth over loyalty. And once the first person spoke, others often found the courage to follow. The morning after Rebecca Lawson's interview began with a sense of controlled urgency. Not panic, not celebration, momentum. For nearly a year, Benjamin Green had built the investigation one verified document at a time. Now, for the first time, someone from inside the organization had confirmed that the structure investigators had mapped actually existed. That changed the investigation completely. It did not prove every crime. It did not identify every participant. But it transformed educated theories into corroborated evidence. Benjamin entered the Federal Evidence Review Room shortly after 7. Laura Mitchell, Melissa Carter, Ethan Brooks, and 2 digital forensic specialists were already working. The recovered flash drive Rebecca had surrendered the previous day had produced more than 12,000 accounting records. Most were ordinary. Payroll files, vendor contracts, budget forecasts, nothing unusual. The important documents were hidden inside a folder labeled archive_backup_final3. A name so ordinary that most people would never open it. Benjamin smiled slightly. "The oldest trick." One forensic analyst looked up. "Hiding something important inside something boring." Benjamin nodded. "People search for suspicious names. They rarely search for ordinary ones." The analyst opened the folder. Hundreds of accounting revisions appeared. Every revision preserved both the original record and the edited version. Rebecca had told the truth. Nothing had actually been deleted. The accounting software quietly maintained every historical version. Someone had simply assumed no one would ever examine them. Benjamin began comparing revisions. Invoice after invoice revealed the same pattern. Vendor names changed. Descriptions changed. Payment purposes changed. Approval comments disappeared. Dates shifted by 1 or 2 days. Small adjustments. Individually insignificant. Collectively transformative. Melissa leaned over his shoulder. They weren't changing the money. Benjamin nodded. They were changing the story. Every modification created a cleaner explanation without changing the amount transferred. A marketing consultation became executive advisory services. A strategic planning session became branding development. Technology licensing became market research. The money remained identical. Only the narrative evolved. Laura quietly observed, "That's concealment." Benjamin answered immediately, "Not necessarily." She looked at him. "Explain." "Concealment requires intent. We still have to prove who intended it." Laura smiled faintly. "You never skip steps." "No. That's why this investigation has survived." At mid-morning, another forensic specialist entered, carrying printed biometric authentication reports. "I think you'll want to see these." Benjamin accepted the folder. Every executive authorization required fingerprint verification through encrypted approval devices. Ryan Calloway's biometric approval appeared on nearly every large transaction, exactly as Rebecca had described, but one authorization immediately stood out. Transaction number 88217, approved, verified. Yet something looked wrong. Benjamin enlarged the record. The approval had been accepted. The fingerprint matched. The timestamp looked normal, but one field remained blank. Device identification. He frowned. Every authorization required both biometric confirmation and registered hardware. This transaction contained only one. Benjamin quietly asked, "Can this happen?" The forensic analyst shook his head. "It shouldn't." "What would cause it?" The analyst thought carefully. "Either hardware failure." He paused. Or someone manually reconstructed the authorization." The room became silent. Manual reconstruction required administrator-level access. Only a handful of people possessed those privileges. Benjamin immediately wrote 4 names: Ryan Calloway, Rebecca Lawson, Senior Systems Administrator Kevin Morales. Unknown Executive Administrator. No conclusions, only possibilities. Melissa noticed one name: Kevin Morales. "You've seen him before?" Benjamin nodded. "He approved server maintenance." Ethan opened another database. Kevin Morales. Age 38. Information Systems Director. Stonebridge Strategic Advisors. Employed for 11 years. No criminal record. Excellent performance evaluations. Minimal public presence. Another invisible executive. Benjamin quietly said, "I think we need to meet Mr. Morales." Laura agreed. "So do I." Across town, Kevin Morales had no idea investigators had begun examining his work. He sat inside a secure server room, replacing aging storage equipment. He enjoyed machines more than people. Computers behaved logically. People rarely did. His phone vibrated once. Unknown number. He ignored it. Seconds later it rang again, then a third time. Finally he answered. "Hello?" No one spoke, only breathing. The line disconnected. Kevin stared at the screen. Unknown numbers rarely called repeatedly. He returned to work. 5 minutes later, another message appeared. "Call Ryan, nothing else." Kevin slowly lowered the phone. For reasons he could not explain, his hands suddenly felt cold. Back inside the federal office, Benjamin continued reconstructing financial timelines. Rebecca's testimony had identified approximately 60 questionable transactions. The recovered accounting revisions increased that number to 94. Still, Benjamin refused to describe them as fraudulent. Not until every transaction had been independently verified. Evidence demanded discipline. Near lunchtime, another unexpected discovery emerged. One accounting revision contained embedded comments never intended for clients to see. Hidden metadata. The visible document contained nothing unusual. The hidden revision history preserved internal discussion. Comment 1. Need executive approval before redistribution. Comment 2. Waiting for RC. Comment 3. NG presentation scheduled tomorrow. Benjamin stared quietly. Once again. RC. NG. The initials returned. Melissa asked softly, same interpretation. Benjamin closed the file. Not yet. But you're thinking it. I'm noticing it. There was a difference. Thinking created bias. Noticing created questions. Hours later, Laura received preliminary interview approval for Kevin Morales. Voluntary? Not compulsory? She called immediately. The conversation lasted less than 3 minutes. When she ended the call, everyone looked toward her. He refused. Benjamin wasn't surprised. Reason? He said he has nothing to discuss. Melissa asked, nervous. Laura answered honestly. He sounded terrified. Benjamin quietly looked towards the evidence board. Fear was spreading. Rebecca, now Kevin. Someone inside the organization understood events were accelerating. Late that afternoon, Benjamin finally drove home while daylight remained. The house was unusually quiet. Natalie sat in the living room reading without turning pages. She looked up as he entered. Long day? Yes. She hesitated. Mine too. Benjamin placed his briefcase beside the stairs. I made soup. She almost smiled. You cooked. I was home first? I'll heat it. No. Benjamin walked toward the kitchen. I already did. They sat across from one another at the dining table. For several minutes, only spoons touched bowls. Finally, Natalie spoke. Do you ever wonder where we started going wrong? Benjamin answered carefully. I wonder when we stopped asking each other honest questions. She looked down. I think I know. He remained silent. I started believing success solved everything. Benjamin listened. I spent so much time building the company. She paused. That I forgot to build our marriage. Benjamin looked at her calmly. Success doesn't destroy relationships. No. She nodded sadly. Neglect does. For the first time in months, the conversation felt genuine. No arguments, no rehearsed answers, only honesty. Natalie looked directly at him. Can I ask you something? Of course. Are you investigating me? The question arrived quietly. Benjamin did not answer immediately. He had promised himself from the beginning that he would never lie. I am investigating financial transactions. She waited. If evidence involves people I know. He met her eyes. I investigate the evidence. Natalie absorbed the answer. You didn't actually answer. I did. No. You answered like a compliance officer. Benjamin looked down briefly. That's the only answer I can honestly give. She slowly nodded. I suppose it is. Neither spoke again. After dinner, Natalie carried the dishes into the kitchen. Benjamin remained at the table. He realized something unexpected. For months he had imagined this conversation many different ways. Anger, denial, accusations. Instead, they had simply told each other uncomfortable truths. Later that evening, his secure government phone vibrated. Laura Mitchell. We found Kevin. Benjamin immediately answered. What happened? He didn't come home? Benjamin stood. Missing. Laura's voice remained calm. He resigned this afternoon. Effective immediately. No forwarding address. Benjamin looked toward the dark window. Did he disappear willingly? We don't know, she paused. But his office computer did something interesting exactly 19 minutes before he left. What? It attempted to access the same administrator authorization system that created the missing device identification. Benjamin closed his eyes for a moment. Kevin Morales had either discovered something, or someone had instructed him to erase it. Either possibility meant the investigation had entered a dangerous new phase, because people only abandoned stable careers without warning when they believed staying had become more dangerous than running. Benjamin barely slept. At 5:30 the following morning, he was already reviewing the overnight reports transmitted from the Department of Justice. Kevin Morales had not used his credit cards. His personal vehicle remained parked outside his apartment building. His work laptop had been recovered from his office. His company-issued phone had been powered off permanently at 5:42 p.m. the previous evening. Everything suggested deliberate disappearance. But Benjamin refused to assume. Disappearing voluntarily and being forced to disappear often produced similar evidence during the first 24 hours. Only time separated the two possibilities. Laura Mitchell entered the federal operations room carrying fresh intelligence reports. Local law enforcement searched his apartment. Benjamin looked up. Anything. They found luggage. So he didn't pack. No. She placed several photographs on the conference table. Kevin's apartment looked remarkably ordinary. Bookshelves, computer equipment, laundry waiting to be folded, half-finished coffee sitting beside an open programming manual. Nothing suggested someone preparing to abandon his life. Benjamin examined every photograph. Then one detail caught his attention. A framed family picture stood on the living room shelf. Kevin, his younger sister, their elderly mother. The frame contained a thin layer of dust. Laura noticed him staring. "What is it?" Benjamin answered quietly. "The picture. It hasn't moved in weeks." Laura frowned. So, Benjamin continued studying it. People who suddenly decide to disappear usually take personal photographs. They leave furniture. They leave dishes. They rarely leave family. Laura looked back at the image. "I didn't notice that." Benjamin nodded. Most people wouldn't. Melissa Carter joined them, carrying an updated timeline. The search warrant for Kevin's cloud accounts was approved. Benjamin accepted the report. Within minutes, federal forensic analysts began recovering every synchronized file connected to Kevin's digital identity. Unlike accountants, information technology professionals often kept detailed technical notes. The first recovery produced exactly that. Server maintenance logs, software updates, security audits, routine documentation, nothing unusual. Then another encrypted notebook appeared. Title? Emergency Procedures. Benjamin opened it carefully. The notebook contained dozens of technical checklists: how to restore databases, how to recover deleted systems, how to rebuild authentication servers. Near the end of the notebook, one page had been edited only 4 days earlier. The title simply read, "If Something Happens." Benjamin became completely still. The page contained only 6 lines. Do not trust internal audit summaries. Compare biometric records against hardware logs. One authorization cannot exist without the other. Someone changed the system. I kept copies. If I'm gone, follow the missing device. Benjamin slowly looked toward Laura. He knew. Laura nodded. He figured it out. Melissa quietly added, and he knew someone would eventually come after him. The room fell silent. Kevin Morales had never contacted investigators. He had never requested immunity. Yet he had quietly documented evidence for someone else to find. Benjamin immediately asked the forensic team, "Did he mention where the copies are?" The analyst shook his head. "Not yet." "Keep searching." Hours passed. Every recovered file revealed another fragment. Kevin had become increasingly suspicious over the previous 6 months. He had noticed administrator records changing without official maintenance requests. He had discovered security certificates replaced overnight, authentication logs rewritten, approval histories reconstructed. Everything pointed toward one conclusion. Someone with extraordinary access had manipulated executive authorization records, not often, only when absolutely necessary. That restraint explained why the deception had survived for so long. Meanwhile, across the city, Ryan Calloway arrived at Calloway Venture Capital nearly an hour earlier than usual. His executive assistant immediately noticed the difference. "Good morning." Ryan barely acknowledged her. Cancel everything before noon. All meetings. Everything. He disappeared into his office and locked the door. For nearly 40 minutes, he made no phone calls, sent no emails, opened no calendar. Instead, he stood looking out over downtown Chicago. His reflection stared back from the glass. For years, he had believed preparation defeated uncertainty. Every contract reviewed, every partnership examined, every executive carefully selected, every vulnerability minimized. Yet 2 people had already broken the system. Rebecca Lawson, Kevin Morales. One had spoken, the other had vanished. Ryan quietly whispered to himself, "Who else?" Back inside the Federal Operations Center, Ethan Brooks finally discovered something unexpected. Benjamin. Benjamin crossed the room. "What did you find?" Ethan enlarged a network diagram. Kevin had secretly synchronized encrypted files every Friday night, not to commercial cloud storage, not to company servers, to an external archival device. Benjamin examined the destination identifier. No address, only a serial number. "Can we trace it?" The forensic analyst answered. "It isn't online." "So?" "It's a physical storage device." Laura immediately understood. "External hard drive." Benjamin nodded. "Somewhere." The challenge now became locating it. Kevin had left no address, no storage locker, no rental agreement. Nothing. Only the serial number. Melissa asked, "What if someone already has it?" Benjamin answered honestly. "Then we're racing them." At noon, another interview took place, this time with Stonebridge's Human Resources Director. The woman cooperated fully. Most questions involved ordinary employment records, vacation schedules, executive travel, internal reporting structures. Near the end, Benjamin casually asked, "Did Kevin Morales ever mention concerns about system security?" She hesitated. "Once." "When?" "About 3 months ago." "What did he say?" "He wanted authorization to conduct a complete security audit." "Was it approved?" "No." "Who denied it?" She checked several archived emails. "Ryan Calloway." Benjamin wrote nothing. He simply thanked her. One more verified fact, nothing more. Late that afternoon, Laura received another update from federal cyber investigators. "We found Kevin's final network activity." Benjamin immediately joined the analysts. Kevin had logged into one forgotten legacy server only minutes before leaving work. The server had not been used in years. Old backup infrastructure, ignored by almost everyone. Inside that server, investigators found a single encrypted message waiting to be discovered, not addressed to anyone, simply stored. Benjamin opened it. "If you are reading this, I either disappeared or failed to stop them. The biometric system was altered by someone using executive override credentials. I couldn't prove who. I only know one authorization never belonged. Find transaction 88217. Everything changed after that." Benjamin reread the message. Transaction 88217. The authorization missing its device identification. The same anomaly they had discovered only yesterday. Kevin had independently reached exactly the same conclusion. That eliminated coincidence. Laura folded her arms. "We need to identify who approved that transaction," Benjamin answered quietly. "We need to identify who couldn't have approved it." She looked at him. The biometric matched. "Yes. But hardware leaves evidence." He pointed toward the missing device identification. "If Ryan physically approved the transaction, the registered device should exist. It doesn't. So either..." Benjamin finished the sentence. "Someone forged the authorization. Or someone used Ryan's identity without his knowledge." The possibility changed everything. For the first time, Benjamin allowed himself to consider another explanation. Perhaps the organization was even more complicated than Rebecca understood. Perhaps someone inside had manipulated records above everyone else's awareness, even Ryan's. Benjamin refused to reject the possibility simply because it seemed unlikely. Every explanation deserved equal examination until evidence eliminated it. That evening, he returned home just after sunset. Natalie sat in the study reviewing presentation slides for an upcoming client conference. She looked up. "You look exhausted." "I've had longer days." She studied him carefully. "I've been meaning to ask something." Benjamin waited. "Have you ever regretted becoming the kind of person who always looks for the truth?" He considered her question longer than expected. Finally, he answered, "No. Never. No." "What if the truth destroys everything?" Benjamin looked at her calmly. "The truth doesn't destroy things." She frowned slightly. "Lies do." Natalie lowered her eyes. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then her phone vibrated across the desk. The screen illuminated briefly. Unknown number. She stared at it. She did not answer. The phone stopped ringing. A moment later, another message appeared. "We need to talk. Tonight." Natalie's face lost what little color remained. Benjamin noticed the change immediately. He said nothing. She quietly locked the phone screen and slipped it into her pocket. "I think I'm going upstairs." Benjamin nodded once. "Good night." After she left the room, he remained seated in silence. He had not seen the sender. He did not know the message. He only knew one simple fact. Someone outside their home believed it was urgent enough to risk contacting Natalie directly. And somewhere else in Chicago, another unknown person had already begun searching for the same missing hard drive that federal investigators desperately needed to find first. Benjamin arrived at the Federal Operations Center before sunrise, carrying nothing except his notebook and a cup of black coffee. The atmosphere inside the office had changed. For months, the investigation had been driven by patient reconstruction. Now it had become a race. Somewhere in Chicago, an external hard drive potentially contained the complete history of the manipulated authorization system. If federal investigators found it first, they might finally identify who altered transaction 88217. If someone else found it, first years of hidden technical evidence could disappear forever. Laura Mitchell stood in front of a large digital map. Colored markers covered nearly every part of downtown Chicago. "Good morning." Benjamin nodded. "Any progress?" "We traced the serial number." Benjamin looked up immediately. "You found the manufacturer?" "Yes." Laura enlarged the report. The drive had been manufactured 3 years earlier, sold through a commercial technology distributor, purchased in a batch of 50 identical encrypted storage devices. "Can we identify the buyer?" "We already did." Benjamin waited. "Stonebridge Strategic Advisors." No one seemed surprised. The company had purchased the devices legally. Large corporations often bought encrypted storage for disaster recovery. The problem was obvious. 50 identical devices. No inventory records identifying which employee received which drive. Benjamin quietly said, "So we're back where we started." Laura shook her head. "Not quite." She displayed another document. Kevin Morales had signed for one of the devices during an infrastructure upgrade 18 months earlier. Asset number SD27. Benjamin examined the paperwork. Every other device had eventually been reassigned or returned. Only SD27 had never been checked back into inventory. Kevin had kept it, exactly as company policy allowed for system administrators responsible for disaster recovery. Ethan Brooks entered carrying another stack of documents. "I found Kevin's reimbursement records." Benjamin accepted them. Most involved ordinary technology purchases, replacement cables, testing equipment, security software. Then one expense caught his attention. Monthly rental, Lincoln Harbor Storage, Unit B214. Benjamin looked toward Laura. Search warrant. Already requested. 2 hours later, the warrant arrived. Federal agents headed toward the storage facility while Benjamin remained in the operations center reviewing additional evidence. He preferred following facts rather than field operations. His role had always been understanding evidence, not collecting it. Late that morning, Laura called from the storage facility. We're inside. Benjamin activated the secure video connection. Rows of metal storage doors stretched into the distance. Agents carefully documented every step. Unit B-214 appeared remarkably ordinary. Boxes, old computer monitors, extension cords, archived technical manuals. Nothing valuable, nothing hidden, at least at first glance. One evidence technician opened a weathered plastic container labeled network equipment. Inside rested old routers, cables, keyboards, and obsolete hard drives. Benjamin watched quietly. The technician lifted each item individually. Near the bottom of the container sat a small, black, encrypted drive. A faded white label remained attached. SD-27. Laura smiled for the first time all morning. I think Kevin wanted us to find it. The drive was immediately sealed and transported to the digital forensic laboratory. No one attempted to open it immediately. Every action followed strict evidence procedures. Chain of custody mattered. If prosecutors could not prove exactly who handled the evidence, defense attorneys would challenge everything. Benjamin appreciated that discipline. The truth deserved proper handling. By early afternoon, forensic specialists began examining the device. Encryption protected every file. Kevin had chosen an exceptionally strong security standard. One analyst looked frustrated. This could take weeks. Another technician quietly interrupted. Maybe not. She enlarged the drive metadata. Kevin had created an emergency recovery key, not stored on the drive, stored somewhere else. Benjamin immediately remembered the notebook. If something happens, he searched Kevin's recovered files again. Hundreds of technical documents appeared. Nothing. Thousands of log entries. Nothing. Finally buried inside an old server maintenance checklist, Benjamin noticed something unusual. Every completed task contained ordinary check marks. One page contained a handwritten note scanned into the archive years earlier. Never trust only one backup. Below the sentence appeared 8 seemingly random numbers. Melissa looked over his shoulder. Password. Benjamin slowly shook his head. No. Recovery key reference. The forensic analyst entered the numbers. The encryption software immediately requested the second half of the recovery sequence. Benjamin frowned. Only half. The analyst nodded. He divided the key. Laura folded her arms. Where's the other half? Nobody answered. The search resumed. Hours passed. Kevin had hidden the final sequence well. Benjamin refused to rush. People usually concealed important information where it naturally belonged, not where it looked dramatic. He reopened Kevin's family photographs recovered from cloud storage, vacation pictures, birthday celebrations, holiday dinners, nothing unusual. Then he noticed something. One photograph showed Kevin standing beside his mother during her 70th birthday celebration. Behind them hung a framed cross-stitched quotation. Most people would ignore it. Benjamin enlarged the image. The stitched letters read, "Faith remembers what fear forgets." Beneath the sentence appeared another row of 8 numbers stitched into the bottom corner. Not decorative, intentional. Benjamin quietly smiled. He trusted his mother. The analyst entered the second sequence. The encrypted drive unlocked instantly. No one spoke. The directory structure appeared. System backups, executive authentication, archived security logs, private notes, emergency evidence. Laura looked toward Benjamin. Which first? He answered without hesitation. Security logs. The recovered records covered nearly 2 years, millions of authentication events, thousands of administrator actions. Forensic software immediately compared them against the official corporate records. Within minutes, dozens of discrepancies appeared. Benjamin studied the largest anomaly. Transaction 88217, original security log, executive override activated, official corporate record, standard executive approval. Someone had altered history. The alteration itself had been preserved inside Kevin's independent backup. Melissa looked stunned. So Rebecca was right. Benjamin nodded slowly. And Kevin was right. Laura asked the obvious question. Who activated executive override? The forensic software continued processing. A progress bar slowly advanced across the screen. 71%, 78, 84, 93. Finally, a name appeared. Administrator credentials K. Morales. Kevin Morales. The room fell completely silent. Ethan spoke first. That can't be right. Benjamin didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reviewed the surrounding log entries. Then he quietly pointed toward another field. Look closer. Beneath Kevin's username appeared a line most people would never notice: remote credential delegation. Laura narrowed her eyes. So, someone used Kevin's administrator authority? From another terminal? Benjamin finished her sentence. Without physically logging in as Kevin. The forensic analyst nodded. That's exactly what happened. Kevin's credentials had been used. Kevin's computer had not. His identity had become the perfect cover. Benjamin leaned back. The evidence had just eliminated one possibility. Kevin had not manipulated the system. Someone had manipulated Kevin. Late that evening, Benjamin finally left the office. As he walked toward the parking garage, his secure phone vibrated. Laura. We've confirmed something else. Benjamin answered immediately. What is it? The remote terminal. Did you identify it? Yes. Benjamin waited. Laura's voice remained calm. It wasn't inside Stonebridge. He stopped walking. Where? It originated from a private executive office inside Callaway Venture Capital. Benjamin looked across the Chicago skyline. The investigation had crossed another critical threshold. Until now, Ryan Callaway had been linked through testimony, financial records, and suspicious patterns. Now, for the first time, forensic evidence connected his headquarters directly to the manipulation of the executive authorization system. Whether Ryan himself had performed the action remained unknown, but someone inside his private offices had. And Benjamin knew that from this point forward, every move made by investigators and every move made by the people they were investigating would become far more dangerous than before. Benjamin reached the Federal Operations Center before anyone else the next morning. The evidence recovered from Kevin Morales' backup drive had fundamentally changed the investigation. For the first time, investigators possessed technical proof that executive authorization records had been manipulated. The question was no longer whether the system had been altered. The question was who had been sitting behind the terminal inside Callaway Venture Capital when it happened. Benjamin placed 3 folders side by side. Financial evidence, digital evidence, witness testimony. For nearly a year, those 3 categories had developed independently. Now they were beginning to support one another. Laura Mitchell entered carrying fresh court documents. The judge signed it. Benjamin looked up. The search warrant. Laura nodded. Limited digital seizure. The warrant authorized investigators to collect server images, access logs, surveillance archives, and workstation records from specific executive offices inside Callaway Venture Capital. Not the entire company. Only the locations directly connected to the forensic evidence. Benjamin approved of the restraint. Broad investigations often failed because they reached beyond the evidence. Narrow investigations survived courtroom scrutiny. Melissa Carter joined them moments later. Our legal window is small. Benjamin understood immediately. News traveled quickly among corporate executives. Once a warrant became public, records could disappear, employees could resign, lawyers could intervene. Timing mattered. Laura checked her watch. The federal team moves in at 9. Benjamin remained behind. His responsibility remained evidence analysis, not field operations. At exactly 9:03 a.m., live updates began arriving from the search team. Reception secured. Executive floor secured. Information technology personnel isolated. Server room preserved. Everything proceeded calmly. No dramatic confrontations. No raised voices. Professional investigators understood that calm cooperation often produced better evidence than aggressive tactics. An hour later, the first report arrived. Ryan Calloway was not in the building. Benjamin wasn't surprised. Successful executives spent much of their time traveling. Laura called from the scene. "We've reached the executive offices." Benjamin activated the secure video feed. Ryan's office reflected the image he carefully projected to the public. Minimalist furniture, family photographs, business awards, shelves filled with books on leadership economics and philanthropy. Everything looked immaculate. Nothing appeared hidden. Benjamin quietly observed, "He expects people to look." Laura smiled slightly. "And they're probably looking in the wrong places." Investigators documented every cabinet before opening it, every drawer before touching it, every computer before disconnecting it. Evidence required patience. One digital forensic examiner approached a custom-built conference table. "Something's unusual." Laura walked over. "What is it?" "The network connection." He lifted one section beneath the polished wood surface. A compact network switch had been professionally installed beneath the table. Unusual. Executive conference tables rarely contained independent networking equipment. Benjamin watched carefully. The technician traced several hidden cables. One disappeared through the floor. Another connected to a secure workstation concealed inside a locked cabinet. Laura frowned. "That's not on the architectural plans." The workstation was removed carefully. Unlike the polished executive computers visible throughout the office, this machine contained no company logos, no inventory label, no asset number. Someone had intentionally kept it separate from the official network. Benjamin quietly said, "Now we're getting closer." Hours later, the forensic laboratory completed its first examination. The hidden workstation had not been used daily, only occasionally, approximately once every 6 to 8 weeks. Benjamin immediately recognized the pattern. Exactly matching the financial transfer cycle, Ethan enlarged another timeline. Every activation corresponded almost perfectly with the administrative preparation Benjamin had identified weeks earlier: password changes, archive reorganizations, permission updates. Then the hidden workstation became active. Then large financial transfers occurred. Melissa folded her arms. "That's too consistent." Benjamin nodded. "Systems create habits." They followed the same routine every time. Another analyst entered carrying surveillance records recovered from the building's security office. Video retention wasn't complete. Benjamin expected that. Most corporate systems automatically deleted recordings after several months. But we recovered access logs. Every executive office required electronic keycard entry. Benjamin reviewed the records: Ryan Calloway, frequent access, executive assistants, cleaning staff, maintenance personnel. Then another name appeared repeatedly: Sophia Bennett. Benjamin looked toward Laura. "Who is she?" Laura searched the personnel database. "Executive Operations Director. Age 44, employed for 9 years. Responsible for coordinating executive meetings, confidential travel, and board communications." Benjamin frowned slightly. "Another invisible executive." Sophia rarely appeared in public photographs. She gave no interviews, maintained no visible social media presence. Her role existed almost entirely behind the scenes, yet her access privileges rivaled Ryan's. Benjamin highlighted every occasion Sophia entered the executive office outside normal business hours. 21 entries. Nearly all occurred the evening before major financial transfers. Again, the pattern returned. Laura immediately requested an interview. Sophia agreed. To everyone's surprise, she arrived that afternoon accompanied by private legal counsel. Benjamin observed quietly from the interview room. Sophia appeared composed, professional, confident. Nothing about her suggested panic. Laura began with routine questions: employment history, responsibilities, office access, meeting coordination. Everything matched company records. Then Laura asked, "Do you recognize this workstation?" A photograph of the concealed computer appeared on the table. Sophia looked at it briefly. "Yes." "What was it used for?" "I don't know." "You had access." "I had access to many things." Benjamin watched her carefully. She answered quickly, not nervously, prepared. Laura continued, "Why was it hidden beneath the conference table?" "I didn't install it." "Who did?" "I don't know." Benjamin finally spoke. "When was the last time you saw it?" Sophia turned toward him. "Months ago." "How many months?" "I don't remember." Benjamin nodded, then quietly placed another document before her. Electronic access records. "According to these records, you entered that room at 8:17 p.m. the night before transaction 8217. Sophia studied the page. "Probably." "You don't deny it?" "No." "Why were you there?" "Preparing for a board meeting." Benjamin slid another page across the table. The board meeting had already been canceled. For the first time, Sophia hesitated. Only for a moment. Then she answered, "I may have remembered the date incorrectly." Benjamin didn't challenge her. He simply made another note. Memory adjusted after evidence presented. Nothing more. The interview concluded without dramatic admissions. Sophia remained cooperative, careful, disciplined. Yet Benjamin left with one impression. She answered exactly what was asked. Never one word more. That evening, Ethan walked into Benjamin's office carrying another discovery. "I think we found something Ryan didn't expect us to recover." Benjamin looked up. "What?" "Printer records." Benjamin smiled faintly. People always forget printers. Modern office printers quietly recorded every confidential document they produced. Dates, times, user accounts, page counts. One print job stood out. The evening before transaction 88217. User account, Spennett. Document title Executive Override Procedure. Pages printed 4. Benjamin stared silently at the report. Sophia Bennett had just stated she knew nothing about the hidden workstation. Yet the printer logs placed her inside the executive office printing procedures directly related to executive overrides. Still, Benjamin refused to jump to conclusions. Printing instructions did not prove she used them. Someone else could have requested the document. Someone else could have operated the workstation. Someone else could have manipulated Kevin's credentials. He closed the folder. Evidence had become stronger, not complete. Just before leaving for the night, Laura entered his office one final time. "We've located Ryan." Benjamin looked up. "Where?" "He landed in Chicago less than an hour ago." "Did he know about the warrant?" Laura nodded. "His attorneys certainly do." Benjamin stood quietly by the window overlooking the city. For nearly 12 months, Ryan Calloway had remained one step removed from every critical decision. Witnesses described him. Financial records connected to him. Digital evidence pointed toward his headquarters. Now federal investigators had searched his executive offices. His hidden workstation had been seized, his operations director had been interviewed, and he was finally back in Chicago. For the first time since the investigation began, Benjamin had the unmistakable feeling that the man at the center of the network was preparing to make his own move, Ryan Calloway arrived at Calloway Venture Capital shortly before 7 the next morning. For the first time in years, television news vans waited outside the building. No accusations had been announced publicly. No criminal charges had been filed. Reporters simply knew federal investigators had executed a search warrant. In Chicago's financial community, that alone generated headlines. Ryan stepped from the black sedan without acknowledging a single camera. His expression remained calm, measured, professional. The same expression investors had trusted for years. Inside the lobby, employees stood unusually silent. Conversation stopped as he entered. Some nodded politely. Others avoided eye contact entirely. Ryan noticed every reaction. Fear spread faster than facts. He entered the executive elevator alone. On the 42nd floor, Sophia Bennett was already waiting. She closed the office door behind him. They interviewed me. I know. They searched everything. I know. Sophia hesitated. They found the workstation. Ryan slowly removed his jacket. I expected they would. She stared at him. You expected it. Ryan looked out across the skyline. The moment Rebecca disappeared, I knew every hidden system would eventually be found. Sophia remained quiet. What do we do now? Ryan answered without turning around. We tell the truth. Sophia looked genuinely shocked. What? Ryan faced her. The truth. Which truth? The part we can prove. Meanwhile, across the city, Benjamin was reviewing the transcript of Sophia's interview for the third time. He rarely reread interviews unless something felt incomplete. Sophia had never lied directly. She had simply answered with remarkable precision. Every response remained technically accurate. Yet the interview left large, empty spaces. Benjamin began writing one question at the top of a blank page. What did she intentionally avoid saying? He reviewed every answer. She admitted entering the executive conference room. She admitted printing executive override procedures. She admitted knowing the hidden workstation existed. She never admitted operating it, never denied operating it either. Benjamin underlined the distinction. Melissa entered quietly. You found something. I've found silence. She smiled. Sometimes silence says more. Benjamin nodded. Exactly. He pointed toward the transcript. She protects someone. Ryan, I don't know. Maybe herself. Maybe both. Laura Mitchell arrived carrying another evidence folder. The laboratory completed fingerprint processing. Benjamin looked up. From the workstation. Laura nodded. Only 4 usable fingerprint sets had been recovered. A forensic technician displayed the report. Ryan Calloway. Sophia Bennett. An unidentified maintenance technician. 1 partial print unsuitable for identification. Benjamin examined the dates. Fingerprints alone proved only that someone had touched the workstation. Nothing about when, nothing about why. Again, useful, not conclusive. His phone rang. Internal secure line. Laura answered first. After less than 30 seconds, she looked toward Benjamin. Ryan's attorney is requesting a meeting. Melissa frowned. Voluntary. Laura nodded. This afternoon. Benjamin remained expressionless. After nearly a year of silence, Ryan had decided to speak. That decision alone mattered. At 2 o'clock, Ryan entered the federal conference room accompanied by 2 attorneys. He looked exactly as he always had. Confident, well-dressed, completely composed. Laura introduced everyone. Ryan nodded politely toward Benjamin. I've heard a great deal about you. Benjamin answered simply. I've read a great deal about you. Neither smiled. Laura activated the recorder. This is a voluntary interview. Ryan agreed. Yes, Laura began. Did you authorize executive override procedures involving transaction 88,217 inches? Ryan answered immediately. No. Benjamin watched carefully. No hesitation. No visible stress. Nothing. Laura continued. Did you know such procedures existed? Yes. Were they legitimate? They existed for disaster recovery. Benjamin asked his first question. Who could activate them? Ryan answered. Very few people. Names. Myself. Sophia Bennett. Kevin Morales. Benjamin wrote them down. Exactly the 3 people already supported by evidence. Laura displayed the recovered security logs. These records show an executive override originating from your headquarters. Ryan studied them. They appear authentic. Are they? I don't know. Benjamin asked quietly. Did you ever instruct Kevin Morales to modify authentication records? No. Did you ever instruct Sophia Bennett? No. Ryan maintained steady eye contact. Benjamin noticed something unusual. Ryan answered almost every question directly, not evasively, not defensively, as though he had already decided which facts he would admit. Laura changed direction. Did you know Rebecca Lawson believed accounting records were manipulated? Ryan sighed softly. No. If I had, he paused, things would have been different. Benjamin observed him carefully. Regret performance. He couldn't tell. Then Benjamin asked the question that changed the interview. What is your relationship with Natalie Green? Ryan looked at him for several seconds before answering. Professional. Only professional. Yes. Benjamin slid conference attendance records across the table. You attended multiple executive meetings together. Yes. Private executive sessions. Yes. Frequent communication. Yes. Ryan remained calm. Benjamin asked one final question. Damn. Did Natalie Green know about manipulated financial records? Ryan answered immediately. No. The room became still. Laura looked toward him. How can you be certain? Ryan didn't hesitate. Because she wasn't involved. Benjamin remained silent. Ryan continued voluntarily. She was hired because she understood branding, investor relations, corporate image, public positioning. She never participated in accounting decisions. Benjamin wrote another note. Direct exculpatory statement. Requires verification. Laura leaned forward. Can anyone confirm that? Ryan nodded. Several people. Names. He listed 6 executives, including Rebecca Lawson. Benjamin immediately recognized something. Ryan had just identified witnesses who could either support his statement or destroy it. An innocent person often invited verification. A guilty person usually avoided it. Benjamin made no conclusions, only observations. The interview continued for another 90 minutes. Ryan admitted approving major investments, corporate acquisitions, strategic restructuring, high-level business planning. He consistently denied manipulating financial records, denied ordering anyone else to manipulate them, denied authorizing fraudulent accounting. As the meeting ended, Ryan stood. Before leaving, he looked directly at Benjamin. Can I ask you something? Benjamin nodded. Of course. Ryan spoke quietly. How long have you been investigating us? Benjamin answered honestly. Almost a year. Ryan smiled faintly. I thought someone like you would eventually find us. The wording caught Benjamin's attention. Not find me, find us. Ryan left with his attorneys. After the door closed, Melissa immediately spoke. He admitted almost nothing. Laura disagreed. He admitted more than I expected. Benjamin remained quiet. He replayed the interview mentally. Ryan never blamed Kevin, never blamed Rebecca, never blamed Sophia, never blamed Natalie. He protected everyone. Why outside the building? Ryan entered his waiting vehicle. As the car pulled away, his phone vibrated. Unknown number. He answered. I'm listening. The voice on the other end spoke only one sentence. They found the second archive. Ryan closed his eyes briefly. I know. The caller continued. Should we leave? Ryan looked back toward the federal building, disappearing behind them. No. Why not? Ryan answered quietly. Because if we run now, he paused, they'll never find the real person. The line went silent. Ryan ended the call without another word. Across the city, Benjamin stood before the growing evidence board. Every new discovery should have made the picture clearer. Instead, something unexpected was happening. The closer he moved toward the center of the investigation, the more every major participant seemed to be protecting someone else. Rebecca protected employees, Kevin protected evidence, Sophia protected silence, Ryan protected people. And Benjamin could not ignore the possibility that the person everyone was protecting had still never appeared in the investigation at all. Benjamin spent most of Friday morning doing something that surprised everyone on the investigative team. He stopped looking at the evidence. Instead, he looked at the absences. Over the previous 12 months, investigators had collected financial records, digital logs, travel histories, corporate communications accounting revisions, security reports, witness interviews, and forensic analysis. Thousands of pages, millions of data points. Benjamin wrote one sentence across the top of a clean whiteboard. What should exist, but doesn't? Laura Mitchell watched him quietly. You've changed direction. Benjamin nodded. Every investigation reaches a point where the evidence becomes too loud. What do you mean? We stop noticing what's missing because we're focused on what we've found. Melissa Carter leaned back in her chair. So what do you think is missing? Benjamin began listing facts. Ryan approved investments. Rebecca supervised accounting. Kevin maintained authentication systems. Sophia coordinated executive operations. Natalie managed branding and investor communications. Each role fit naturally within the organization. Each person had access to part of the system. No single person appeared to control all of it. Benjamin stepped away from the board. That's the problem. Ethan Brooks frowned. Why? Because the financial structure behaved as though one person understood everything. He pointed toward the payment timeline. The accounting revisions depended on knowing future investment schedules. Then toward the travel calendar. The executive meetings depended on knowing communication strategy. Then toward the authentication logs. The digital changes required administrator-level technical planning. Melissa slowly nodded. No executive we've interviewed had all of that. Exactly. Laura folded her arms. So someone coordinated them, Benjamin answered quietly. Or someone gave instructions. The room became silent. For the first time, investigators seriously considered the possibility that the true architect might not hold an obvious executive title. Ethan returned to the personnel database. We've searched senior leadership, vice presidents, board members, CFOs, technology directors. Benjamin interrupted. Search everyone. Everyone. Every employee with recurring access to multiple departments. The expanded search produced hundreds of names: administrative assistants, corporate attorneys, travel coordinators, project managers, internal auditors, compliance liaisons. Benjamin immediately eliminated most of them. Limited access, limited authority, limited interaction. The list slowly shrank, one by one, until only 9 employees remained. Laura projected the names onto the screen. 8 were already familiar. The 9th was not. Michael Avery, Director of Executive Integration. Benjamin read the title twice. What exactly is executive integration? Nobody knew. Melissa searched corporate filings. The department appeared only 4 years earlier. No public description, no press release, no organizational chart. Odd. Large corporations usually described executive departments clearly. Benjamin opened Michael Avery's personnel file. Age 53, former management consultant, joined Callaway Venture Capital 4 years earlier. No interviews, no conference appearances, no published articles, no professional awards. His photograph showed an ordinary-looking man in a navy suit with silver-rimmed glasses. Forgettable. Benjamin studied the employment history. Then something caught his attention. Before joining Ryan's company, Michael had spent 18 years designing operational systems for multinational corporations. Not finance, not marketing, not technology, integration, building processes, connecting every department. Benjamin looked toward Laura. He understands systems. Ethan quietly added, and systems create patterns. Benjamin requested Michael's access records. Minutes later, they arrived. His access privileges exceeded almost everyone else's. Finance, technology, executive administration, board operations, legal archives, travel coordination. Benjamin slowly circled the report. He didn't control the departments. Melissa finished the thought. He connected them. At that exact moment, another analyst entered the room carrying newly restored email indexes recovered from an archived backup server. "We found something." Benjamin turned. "What?" "Not emails. Indexes. Every deleted email still left behind routing information. Sender, recipient, time, size, subject identifier. The content might disappear. The routing rarely did." Benjamin searched one name, Ryan Callaway. Thousands of entries. Rebecca Lawson. Thousands. Sophia Bennett. Hundreds. Kevin Morales. Hundreds. Michael Avery. Almost none. Ethan looked confused. "That's impossible." Benjamin quietly smiled. "No. It's deliberate." Laura looked at him. "You think he avoided email?" Benjamin nodded. "People who understand systems know permanent records begin with communication." Melissa asked, "So how did he communicate?" Benjamin didn't answer immediately. Instead, he searched calendar metadata, then visitor logs, then internal badge records. Finally, a pattern emerged. Michael Avery almost never emailed executives. He visited them. Short meetings, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 9 minutes. Always in person? No written record. No electronic trail. Benjamin stared at the timeline. Every major financial event had been preceded by one of Michael's brief executive visits. Ryan, Rebecca, Sophia, Kevin. Sometimes all 4 within the same afternoon. Always in the same order. Always ending before the administrative changes began. Laura whispered, "He carried instructions." Benjamin remained cautious. "Possibly. We verify first." A request for Michael Avery's travel history was submitted immediately. While analysts waited, Benjamin reopened Ryan's interview transcript. One sentence suddenly stood out. "I thought someone like you would eventually find us." "Not me. Us." At the time, Benjamin believed Ryan referred to the executive group. Now he wondered whether Ryan had meant something else entirely. Perhaps Ryan expected investigators to uncover the entire structure, not merely its visible leadership. By late afternoon, the travel records arrived. Michael almost never traveled alone. Whenever Ryan attended investment conferences, Michael appeared on separate reservations. Different flights, different hotels, different expense accounts. Yet they consistently arrived in the same cities within hours of one another. Benjamin compared another event. The Chicago conference attended by Natalie. Ryan stayed in Suite 1812. Natalie reserved Conference Room 12. Michael Avery reserved a private business office on the same floor. No meetings were officially recorded. No invoices explained the reservation. Benjamin wrote another note. Presence confirmed. Purpose unknown. The investigation was becoming stranger, not simpler. Just before 6 o'clock, Laura received a notification from federal financial analysts. "Benjamin?" He walked over. "What is it?" "We finished tracing transaction 88217. Benjamin expected another shell company, another consulting contract, Another hidden account. Instead, the analyst pointed to the final destination. The money had never remained inside the corporate network. After passing through multiple companies, it had been converted into municipal bond purchases held inside a charitable foundation. Benjamin frowned. A foundation? The analyst nodded. A legitimate one. No missing money. No offshore transfer. No personal account. The funds had ultimately supported scholarships, hospital construction, and community housing projects. The room became completely silent. Ethan finally spoke. That doesn't make any sense, Benjamin agreed. It doesn't. If the purpose had been simple theft, the money should have enriched someone personally. Instead, at least this transaction had ended inside publicly documented charitable investments. Melissa looked at the report. So, what exactly were they hiding? No one answered. Because for the first time since the investigation began, Benjamin realized they might have been asking the wrong question. Perhaps the greatest secret wasn't where the money had gone. Perhaps it was why so many intelligent people had risked everything to conceal transactions that on their face did not appear to make anyone richer. Benjamin looked once more at the name now sitting alone on the whiteboard. Michael Avery. A man who left almost no emails, almost no digital conversations, almost no public presence, yet somehow appeared just before every major decision. Benjamin had spent nearly a year following documents. Now, for the first time, he believed the investigation might ultimately depend on understanding one quiet man whose name had barely appeared in the evidence at all. Benjamin remained in the operations center long after everyone else had gone home. The charitable foundation report lay open in front of him. For nearly a year, every investigative path had pointed toward financial fraud. Yet transaction 88217 had ended somewhere entirely unexpected. Scholarship programs, children's hospitals, affordable housing initiatives. The money had not vanished. It had become visible, just not in the way anyone expected. Benjamin knew better than to celebrate or abandon the investigation. Fraud sometimes passed through legitimate charities. Legitimate charities could also unknowingly receive improperly transferred funds. The destination alone proved nothing. Only the complete path mattered. At 7:15 the following morning, Laura Mitchell walked into Benjamin's office carrying another binder. I couldn't stop thinking about last night. Benjamin looked up. Neither could I. Laura placed the binder on his desk. I asked federal analysts to map every payment entering that foundation. Benjamin opened the report. The charitable organization had existed for nearly 20 years. Its audits were clean. Its public filings were consistent. Independent accounting firms had reviewed its financial statements annually. No obvious irregularities appeared. Benjamin slowly turned another page. The foundation's board of directors included university presidents, retired judges, physicians, business leaders, and community advocates. Respected people. People whose reputations depended on integrity. Melissa Carter joined them moments later. Any connection to Ryan? Laura nodded. He donated. Personally? Yes. So did dozens of other executives. Benjamin remained silent. Again, nothing illegal. Successful executives frequently supported charitable organizations. The foundation itself did not appear suspicious. What mattered was why transaction 88217 had reached it through such a complicated route. Ethan Brooks entered, carrying a laptop. I think I found the answer. Benjamin motioned for him to continue. Ethan projected 2 diagrams onto the wall. The first showed the route investigators had already reconstructed. Callaway Venture Capital, Stonebridge Strategic Advisors, multiple consulting firms, investment entities, finally the charitable foundation. Then Ethan displayed a second diagram. If the money had gone directly, a simple line appeared. Ryan Calloway. Charitable foundation, 1 transaction, 1 accounting entry, 1 tax record. Benjamin understood immediately. They built 20 steps, and for something that required only 1. Ethan nodded. Exactly. Melissa frowned. Why would anyone create unnecessary complexity? Benjamin answered quietly. Because the payment wasn't the real objective. Laura looked toward him. You think they were hiding something else? Benjamin nodded. The money may have been ordinary. The process wasn't. That distinction changed the entire direction of the investigation. Perhaps investigators had become so focused on following dollars that they had overlooked something hidden inside the movement itself. Benjamin requested every document connected specifically to transaction 88217, not the surrounding transactions. Only that one. Contracts, invoices, approvals, meeting schedules, printer logs, visitor records, calendar entries. Within an hour, the evidence covered nearly half the conference table. Benjamin ignored the financial documents first. Instead, he studied the timing. 3 days before the transaction, Michael Avery visited Ryan. 2 days before, Michael visited Sophia Bennett. The following morning, Michael met Kevin Morales. That afternoon, Rebecca Lawson approved accounting revisions. Later that evening, Sophia printed executive override procedures. The next morning, transaction 88217 occurred. Benjamin slowly circled one fact. Every participant acted. Only Michael never appeared inside the transaction itself. Laura noticed. He never signed anything. No. He never approved anything. No. He simply appeared before everyone else. Benjamin nodded, and disappeared afterward. At noon, federal agents interviewed another executive from Callaway Venture Capital, a retired operations manager who had left the company 6 months earlier. The interview began routinely. Corporate structure, management practices, executive culture. Then Laura casually asked, "Did you know Michael Avery?" The retired manager smiled. Everyone knew Michael. What did he do? The man hesitated. Honestly, I'm not sure anyone could explain it. Benjamin leaned forward slightly. What do you mean? He wasn't anyone's boss, but everyone listened to him. He attended meetings across every department. Finance, legal, technology, investor relations. He rarely spoke. But after he left, the manager shrugged. Titan. People changed their plans. Benjamin wrote another note. Influence without authority. Laura continued. Who did Michael report to? The former manager smiled weakly. Officially. Ryan? Unofficially. I don't think anyone really knew. The interview concluded without dramatic revelations. Yet Benjamin felt something important had emerged. Organizations usually functioned through formal reporting lines. Michael seemed to function outside them. That afternoon, the forensic laboratory completed another reconstruction from Kevin Morales' backup files, a deleted scheduling database. Benjamin searched one name, Michael Avery. No meetings appeared. He searched another field, visitor authorizations. There. Michael almost never scheduled meetings electronically. Executive assistants manually opened conference rooms for him. No calendar invitations, no email records, no digital trail. Everything depended upon human memory. Benjamin quietly admired the discipline. Whoever designed those routines understood exactly how investigators worked. Computers remembered. People forgot. Late in the afternoon, Laura entered carrying a sealed envelope. Fresh subpoena response. Benjamin opened it. The documents came from a telecommunications provider. Historical location records, not conversations, not messages. Only device locations. Benjamin searched the dates surrounding transaction 88217. Ryan's phone remained inside headquarters. Sophia's device moved between conference rooms. Kevin stayed inside the server center. Rebecca remained at Stonebridge. Then Benjamin searched Michael Avery. No records. Laura frowned. He left his phone behind. Benjamin nodded slowly, deliberately. The telecommunications analyst confirmed it. Michael's phone remained inside his office all afternoon, while security cameras showed him leaving the building briefly through a private executive entrance. No digital location, no electronic tracking, no recorded destination. Someone had intentionally separated himself from his own phone. Melissa looked thoughtful. That's not accidental. No, Benjamin agreed. It's practiced. As evening approached, another message arrived from Rebecca Lawson through her attorney. She wished to supplement her previous testimony. The investigators arranged a secure video interview immediately. Rebecca appeared calmer than before. Protective custody seemed to be helping. Laura began. You asked to add something. Rebecca nodded. I remembered a conversation. With whom? Michael. Benjamin looked up immediately. Rebecca continued. It happened about 8 months ago. What did he say? He told me something I've never forgotten. She paused. He said, people spend their lives following money. The smartest investigators eventually realized they should have been following decisions instead. The room became silent. Benjamin slowly closed his notebook. That sentence explained everything he had been feeling for the past 24 hours. The money might only be a distraction. The real investigation lay inside the sequence of decisions that moved it. Rebecca continued. I didn't understand what he meant. Benjamin quietly answered. I think I'm beginning to. After the interview ended, Laura stood beside the evidence board. So, what's next? Benjamin looked at the timeline stretching across nearly an entire wall. For 12 months, we've been reconstructing transactions. He picked up a marker. Then, beneath every major payment, he began writing something different. Who made the decision? Who influenced the decision? Who benefited from the decision? When he stepped back, an entirely new pattern emerged. The financial paths looked complicated. The decision paths looked astonishingly simple. And standing at the center of nearly every one of them, without a signature, without an email, without a formal approval, was Michael Avery. Every life eventually presents us with a choice between comfort and character. It is often easier to stay silent to protect our reputation, or to take the path that benefits us in the moment. But true integrity is revealed when no one is watching, when doing the right thing comes with a personal cost. Benjamin's journey reminds us that truth does not always arrive with loud victories or dramatic confrontations. More often, it is built through quiet discipline, unwavering patience, and the courage to keep moving forward even when the answers seem impossibly far away. At the same time, this story reminds us that appearances can be deceiving. Success, wealth, and influence may impress the world, but they can never replace honesty, trust, or a clear conscience. In the end, lies require endless effort to maintain, while the truth only requires time to reveal itself. Every decision we make, every word we speak, and every choice we hide becomes part of the legacy we leave behind. Long after money, titles, and recognition have faded, our character is what people will remember. So choose integrity over convenience, patience over revenge, and truth over fear. Those choices may not make life easier today, but they will always make your future stronger. If this story touched your heart or made you reflect on your own life, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your perspective in the comments below. What lessons stayed with you the most? And if you enjoy powerful stories about resilience, justice, and the strength of character, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our next inspiring story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.